more mouth noises.
Okay.
All right, all right. We are back. We are back. Sorry about the technical difficulties, y'all. We're just so excited here that we skipped a few steps, and but we wanted to make sure that we get this conversation across, and that's what's going to happen here today. So we're going to go ahead and refer back to the introduction, and continue this wonderful, wonderful conversation here. So I would like to introduce, I'm not going to call her the person of the moment, but it's definitely the person of every moment when you engage, this wonderful spirit. So, I want you guys to meet Gagi here, and then she's going to introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Janet Ware Maples, aka Gagi. That's my nickname that I was given by one of my grandchildren, or actually it was one of my twin sisters' children gave me the name Gagi. And I've had it for the last 30-something years, and I enjoy it.
Wonderful, wonderful.
But Solomon, you asked me a question earlier about the cucumbers on a popsicle stick. I started selling cucumbers on a popsicle stick when I was living in Southern California. I'd gotten a divorce. I moved to California with 3 children and $177.
Mm-hmm.
I will never forget what the psychiatrist said to me, and I say psychiatrist, I use that term rather loosely.
Mm-hmm.
It was a doctor that had been referred to my husband and I by the courts. We had to see this psychiatrist. And he said to me one day, he said, Mrs. Geist, picture this. You have no money. You move out of state. You only have $129. What would be the very first thing that you do in your newly found city? And I thought for a second. I said, well, I probably would go shopping, and I would buy myself something very pretty, probably a beautiful blouse.
Mm-hmm.
And he looked at my husband and he jumped up and he said, I understand why you have problems with this woman. She has no money. She only has $100. And what does she do? She goes shopping. And I looked at him and I wondered, what is the matter with this man? What is he saying that, why did he feel that was a very irresponsible thing for me to do?
Mm-hmm.
But I knew that would be exactly what I would do. Years later, when I moved out of town, that's exactly what I did. And I went on a Sunday and got a job with my beautiful blouse on. So I thought about that when we were talking earlier about me selling cucumbers on the popsicle stick. I was living in California and I was at Venice Beach one day. Everybody's probably heard of Venice Beach. It's a beautiful beach near the Santa Monica area. And I was selling jewelry that I had made. And it seemed as if that day everyone was selling jewelry. And I was trying beautiful earrings, handmade earrings. I was not getting one single sale. I looked to the right of me and there was a man sitting on the curb. He reached into a paper bag and he pulled out a cucumber. And he commenced with peeling that cucumber. And I'm looking at him peeling this cucumber thinking, how is he going to eat that cucumber? When he finished peeling it, he put it in his mouth and he took this big bite of this cucumber. And I'm thinking to myself, what I wouldn't give for a cucumber. The thought of a cool cucumber, just the thought of something cool, made me think that if I had that cucumber, I wouldn't be so miserable because it would quench my thirst. So I went home and I kept thinking about cucumbers. And I jumped up and I told my sister, I said, Jeannie, forget about me selling jewelry. The next time I go back to Venice Beach, I'm going to sell cucumbers. And she said, you're going to sell what? I said, cucumbers. It's just think about the thought. The first thing that comes to your mind when you think of, when you say the word cucumber, the next word you will say is cool. Cool as a cucumber. When the fact is that cucumbers are a few degrees cooler than any other fruit or vegetable. And I thought, I bet you I could sell a lot of cucumbers. So my sister says, well, how are you just going to sell? I'm just going to say cucumbers? I said, no, I'll sell them on a popsicle stick. And that's exactly what I did. And between June and September, I bought and paid for a car selling cucumbers on a popsicle stick.
Wow. Now that's what I call a good hunt. You got it in there.
You know, I tell people all the time, you know, Chicagoans, we're a unique species of people. It doesn't matter where we go to. They will say, you're from Chicago. If you can make it in Chicago, you can make it anywhere.
So you sold cucumbers and bought a car?
I sure did. I would average on average, I would sell 1,000 cucumbers a day.
1,000 cucumbers a day?
1,000 cucumbers at $1.
How do you spell 1,000 cucumbers a day?
One at a time.
One at a time.
You peel those cucumbers, and you probably have noticed that cucumbers have a wonderful aroma. And when you're looking at that cucumber and you're smelling that aroma, and it's a hot day, that cucumber is going to seem like a pretty good idea.
So you cut them up?
No, I peeled them. Once I peeled them, I took a popsicle stick, stuck a popsicle stick in, sprayed it with my magic sauce, which was nothing other than vinegar and water. And on the table, I had salt, pepper, limes, lemons, garlic.
They can dress it how they want it to?
However they want it.
Wow.
The most cucumbers I've ever sold in one 24-hour period was 5,000.
I bet you if we sell cucumber popsicles at our restaurant or not that, I bet you, and we gotta advertise it, have them out in the front. You know, I bet you people buy them.
I sold cucumbers to sell.
So we froze them?
No, we peeled them.
But did we freeze them after that?
No. We just put them in ice water.
Oh, we keep them in ice water.
You keep them in ice.
Oh.
You start out with a big bed. I had a cart made. I got so professional. I had me a cucicle.
I love it.
And
keep going.
I would roll down the street with my cucumbers on the popsicle stick. Listen, I'll tell you something interesting. When I came back to Chicago and I tried to sell cucumbers on a popsicle stick up and down Michigan Avenue, I would stop, and this guy said, "Hey, lady, you can't sell cucumbers here unless you get permission." I said, "Okay." So I went down to City Hall thinking I had to get permission from City Hall. Little did I know at that time, you did not get permission from City Hall. You got permission from the person who decided who sold any and everything on Michigan Avenue in Chicago. So he said, come meet me at this office. It was somewhere over by Soldiers Field. I went to his office. He sat there talking on the phone for about 20 or 30 minutes, just ignoring me. And so he finally hung up. He said, "I hear you're trying to sell cucumbers on a popsicle stick on Michigan Avenue." He said, "You can sell them if you want to, but you have to give me half of everything you make."
What?
At that time, I thought to myself, I'm not going to give anybody half of everything I'll make. They've just got to catch me. That's all. Well, that doesn't work very good in Chicago. You don't bother with the bosses. And so finally, I decided that I had them stop me enough to realize that either I was going to stop selling them on a popsicle stick or stop selling cucumbers, or I was going to deal with giving the bosses in Chicago half of my money. And I just didn't do it. But when I went back to California, they don't have those type of situations. At that time, you could sell whatever you wanted to on the beach in Santa Monica or on Venice Beach, and that's what I did.
Yeah, so that was not nice of them, though.
No, but I probably, if I were a little bit younger, I would still sell them. I'd get permission, and I would hire me about 10 people, and I'd have 10 people going from North Michigan Avenue all the way to South
Hmm.
Lakeshore Drive, and I would sell cucumbers.
Yeah, we're gonna get that back going. But I want to shift over. I know y'all see the other gentleman there. That is Trevor. We have Gagi and Trevor here. I'm sorry about that. We have Gagi and Trevor here. Trevor is her grandson. I definitely want to introduce him. He's one of the reasons why I was able to fix my technical situation, because he has some expertise in this, in the background of this type of technical aspects as far as audios and whatnot. So I did want to bring him in so he can introduce himself, and then we can continue in our conversation.
My name is Trevor. I'm Gagi's grandson. She's been living with me for about a year and a half, and our relationship has been growing so much since then. And one day came along, and I was thinking, like, I really want to help improve my grandmother's health. And I know one way, though, you can do that is by way of diet. And so I was going over to a place not too far away from where I lived on Division, but I was really looking for a place that like was more aligned with my faith. And I saw a place called the Natural Branches. Like, wait, that is definitely from the scriptures. Let me check this place out. Went up there, and I actually met Solomon's mother when I went there, and I was just talking to her about everything. Brought up my grandmother, and that I was really trying to help change her diet, and we've been vegan already at that point for about 6 months. And then, but we really wanted to take that next step, because you can be vegan and eat crap and not, bunch of acids, bunch of carbs, all that various type of stuff. But we wanted to move it forward. So we got on we got on the phone with Chef Franco, and talked to him and everything. And then the next day we came in and we sat down and talked to him for hours on end about diet, about spirit, about everything, and built a relationship from there. And so we've been talking for every week, just and the focus has been on trying to improve my grandmother's health, because she might be up there in age, but she's still very youthful. She still has a lot of things that she wants to accomplish in this life. And so you need your body right to do that. So
Absolutely, Trevor. Absolutely. And I really appreciate you guys coming, because I'm getting just as much from this engagement and from this relationship that you guys are. It's really changing, my perspective on things, as I hear the stories, as I hear your guys' perspectives, especially with Gagi. She has so much different, diverse experience in life, and so many vivid memories of situations where she is so focused on the details of these situations, the emotional detail, the actual detail, and how she brings them to life. You can really, some things are kind of vague for people, but your mind seems so sharp. And that's something I've told you this whole entire process, even as we were considering, okay, well, the health is not where it should be here. The health is not where it should be there. But your mind seems, especially sharp consistently.
The one thing that I can say about myself is that I'm blessed to have two things. I think the one thing that I'm blessed to have is an inordinate amount of faith. I think ever since I was a young child, I just had a feeling that faith was something that was very important, because I've always been a person who had a desire or a gift for making money. And I didn't understand why everyone seemingly complained about money. And I would always tell my dad, but Dad, why does everybody always talk about money? And I'm a little kid, and look how much money I have. But I realized that the reason why I always had more money than anyone else in my family is because I moved on an idea. When I got an idea about something, it didn't matter how crazy it appeared to anyone. But if it popped into my brain, I believed that I could do it. That was the first thing. I can do it. And that attitude has been one of the things that has been with me my entire life. Don't think of myself as being old. I think of myself as, I'm sure tomorrow, if I wake up, I'll probably have another great idea. And I really do. I've given a lot of other people ideas and things that they should do.
Praise
But
God.
cucumbers on the popsicle stick was just one of the things that I did. I also started a company called the Aware Safety Group, where I one day saw the Illinois Bell sign on Skokie Boulevard, and something spoke to me and said, you need to contact the people at Illinois Bell. Why do I need to contact the people at Illinois Bell? And I remember that I had created this character, this cartoon character called Bubba the Safety Awareness Bee. The following day, I went to Illinois Bell on Toohey Boulevard, or Skokie, one or the other. And I asked to speak to the director of that facility. And the lady said, well, what do you want to speak to him about? I said, I have an idea that when he hears it, he's going to love it. So she gets on the phone. She says, Mari, there's a young lady here saying that if you hear her idea, you're just going to love it. And she says she's not going to leave until she talks to you. That was true. About a half hour later, Maury comes down and he says, well, I hear you have an idea for me. I says, yes. I reached in my purse and I pulled out this picture. I said, ta-da! This is Bubba the Safety Awareness Bee. He's going to help you reduce your accidents. And he said, oh, really? He said, tell me more. I said, well, you see that safety sign down there? Nobody's going to look at that. But they will look at my character. Why? Because he's yellow and bright, black, and he's bright and he's bubbly. He said, you're an actress, right? I said, no. He said, I was just last night having a drink at this bar, and I was telling this guy that these accidents are killing me. A lot of people don't realize the reason why they don't get raises in companies is because of accidents. Accidents eat up a company's profits. And they're the number one things that's almost preventable.
Imagine that.
So he said to me, when you started talking about that bee, I swear to God, that bee started flying all around this room. A month later, I was sitting at a table with about 9 attorneys trying to figure out how they were going to use my program without infringing upon my copyright.
Wow.
And I did.
Did you meet with his attorneys?
I met with about 9 attorneys from AT&T.
Their attorneys?
Their attorneys, and only one of my attorneys.
They wanted to use your idea without infringing. So that means they didn't want to give you credit for it, but they wanted to use it.
They wanted to use it, but they knew that I was smart enough that I came with my attorney.
Oh, there you go. How old were you when this happened?
I was in my 40s.
Oh, praise God, man. Praise God. Well, that's wonderful.
And as a result of that program, I won what's called the Western Electric Presidential Safety Award. That's the Oscar of safety.
Wow.
And I was moving at that time. I was contacting every large corporation I could get a hold to. And I can't tell you all of the places that I did safety programs for, but I can tell you this. I have never done a safety program for any company that they did not reduce their accidents by a minimum of 50%.
Wow. So that was just the first place that you went to, and then what'd you do? How'd you keep going with this?
I started creating more characters. I had Bubba the Safety Awareness Bee, Cool Hand Cute, Buckleberry
Wow.
Bear.
So everybody got their own character if they wanted. They felt exclusive.
Well, they got one of my characters.
Oh yeah, one of you
Yes,
created a character for this. I love how you make that distinction. That's your idea. You
Exactly.
own that. That's intellectual property. That's
I call
yours.
myself the Disney of safety.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. So it makes me ask a question though.
Mhm.
You said you were like this all your life.
All of my life.
Most people are nothing like that all their life. Where did this come from? Where did this come from?
I'll tell you exactly where it came from. It came from my parents. My parents always said to me, Janet, don't ever let anyone tell you that you're not as smart as Jeannie. Because you are as smart as Jeannie. Because people always wanted to compare my twin with me. My twin was much more academic than I was. I was the creative person. I was always making something and designing something. That's the way I was. And my parents would tell me, your gift is in your hands. You make beautiful things with your hands. Where does this idea come from? And so my parents realized that people would tend to compare my twin and I.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't like that. So they would always tell me how blessed I was to have the mind that I had, the creative mind that I had.
Absolutely. And I wanted to say that having daughters myself, and they're only a couple years apart, that I have always been very careful to make sure that they have their own identity.
Exactly.
And that they have that I always point out their own specific skill sets, talents, gifts, and never let them infringe on each other's, never let them feel inferior to each other. Like all those things, it's a very careful balancing act as a dad, not to build a child's mind up. And it takes a lot of carefulness. So I can definitely resonate with that.
And I'm so happy you said that, because you can imagine being an identical twin. People tend to want to compare twins. They tend to want twins to be exactly alike. My twin and I were nothing alike. Although we looked exactly alike, that we couldn't tell our own self apart on pictures. We would know that is me. That is not you, Jeannie. That is me. So this was going on for our entire lives. But as I said, I think the reason why I have never been a competitive person, ever. I only compete with myself because I don't care about what you do. I don't care about how great you are. That isn't one of the things that I've ever concerned myself with. I've only concerned myself, what can I do? I wonder if this idea that I had about, I wonder if I tried this hard enough, if I could make this work. And that's the way I've always been. I've had people to tell me, Gagi, you are the least competitive person in the world, because if we're playing games, I'm not the person you want. I'm not the person you want on your team, because it's not going to matter to me whether or not we win or we lose, because that's not how my brain thinks.
I love that disclaimer.
I believe that it's much, I'll put it this way. To me, I am the person you want that will cooperate to help you accomplish your goals.
Wonderful.
I cooperate with people. I think that it's unfortunate that everything in our society is constantly competitive behavior. I don't think competitive behavior is necessarily a virtue. I don't. That's my opinion. I think we need to teach children how to cooperate with one another.
I agree. And I have something that I share with people on it, as far as we're not taught to admire and have admiration for each other versus having a feeling of envy and jealousy and being inferior.
So true.
We need to see someone doing something special, and we need to learn how to cooperate with them and say, hey, I don't know how you did that, but I've been trying to do that for a long time. I need your help. Can you help me? Yeah. And
unfortunately, we're not teaching our children to have that type of mindset.
So speaking of children, you got your grandson here, Trevor.
Yes.
And Trevor is as bright as they come. And I can understand why. Especially if he spends significant time with you, and in the last year and a half, you guys have been spending a lot of time together. But he's as bright as them all.
Yes, he is.
Trevor, what is it like living with Gagi day to day. Feel free to shine any light you want. I'm not pushing you in any direction here. But what is
It
it?
isn't easy.
What is it like to live with Gagi every day? Gagi is just a very interesting person because her mind is always working in a certain way. You know, since she's not as mobile, a lot of the things she does is like around the house, just like with her gardening or things like that. We have plants in the house and things like that. So she'll be working with plants, and we'll have plants. We'll have a tree here, an orchid here, a shamrock here, and then we'll have the shamrock, then the tree, then the orchid. Then the next day, the shamrock, the orchid, then the tree. And every day it's changing. And the thing is that, she likes to keep herself moving. She likes to keep herself, likes to challenge herself every day. And so that's an inspiration to me, and she's always telling me stories. She's always just like encouraging me, like Trevor, you're so smart. I'll be talking about something random. I'll just say, oh, did you know about this? Like, oh, I didn't think about it. You're so right. And so for me, I've really been able to see how my grandmother is a really big inspiration to everyone that she comes across. I'm more of a laid back type of person, but I try to have that same impact on people, even prior to we had such a close relationship. But I see where I get it now. I see that, as more and more time I spend with it, every single person that she ends up spending time with, she's engaging them and ends up finding like this small thing about them and puts light on it and encourages them. Just the other day, she was I got an Uber for her coming from the nail salon, and she said, Trevor, the Uber driver was the best Uber driver ever. She runs this marketing company. She was driving a Tesla, and she said that I swear to you that the Most High put us here together for this trip. And I was asking her, it's like, we live off of like Western and Division. She was going off of like North and Western. They were going like a half a block. And it's like, wait, what conversation did you guys have in 5 minutes that was so great that you just knew that the Most High was like, obviously the Most High does everything in our lives. But when we say something like that, it's something that is miraculous and touches you in your heart. And so, my grandmother is just such an inspiration, and she's been through so many various hardships in her life that it is incredible to see it because, we'll probably talk about it later. She has, certain things with her mobility, certain things that's happened earlier going on with family and things like that. A lot of things that other people in our community have gone through, but they have a very negative outlook on it and almost a victim mentality. But what you really learn from her is that you can take those various things and just say, hey, I took it and I'm stronger for it. And I can have a certain level of optimism. She's the most optimistic person where she says this is not too long ago, she had a strain in her hand and she said, I'm going to heal this strain in my hand. And the doctors were thinking that they would have to operate on it. And so she said, no, I'm
no, first they said they couldn't do it because I was too old.
Yeah. And so what she said, all right, Trevor, you're going to be the witness to this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my hand and I'm going to act like I'm sewing it. And every time it hurts, I'm going to act like I'm sewing it. And I'm going to say to my hand, mend. And sure enough, a couple months later, she was able to have no pain in her hands.
Wow, praise God. That's such faith, though. That's what it is.
That's because I believe that I was able to do it. When the doctor said that we would offer, you need surgery on this hand, but you're kind of old, you've got issues here and issues there. We are not going to do surgery. So then I thought to myself, just suppose, Janet, that you could pretend as if you're mending it yourself. And I started doing every time I felt the pain, I would mend it a little bit more. I couldn't move this hand. I couldn't do this. If I took off that brace for 1 minute, I was in excruciating pain.
Wow.
I am the type of person that I believe that if we plant into our minds an experience that we want to have, we can go there.
Absolutely.
I truly believe that.
I know it.
Because I've had those experiences in my life.
You've done it. You know it.
And that's why I had to tell Trevor, I'm telling you because I want, when this hand is better, I want you to witness it.
Mhm.
And so he knew how much trouble I was having with it.
Wonderful.
I didn't doubt it at all. You know, and the thing is that I would say that I'm an observant person. Gagi says that I'm very observant. I pick up everything. You know, even what she was saying earlier, she says that she knew that her gift was in her hands. And so a part of what Gagi does on a day-to-day basis is that she beads. And so you need your hands to bead. You're threading through different beads, you're cutting and cramping and all the things with the tweezers and all that. You need your hands for that. And so I'm going to bring up another story where she was in trouble with her hands.
Yes.
She was using, was it a
electric saw?
Electric saw, cut through her hand in a place where she should have lost her thumb.
Right here, I was making jewelry out of coconuts, and I had cut the coconut practically to the perfect point. But as I held it up to the light, I could see there was one little tiny spot that I missed. So I picked up my tool and I just thought I could just do it like that, but it slipped and it just sliced my hand open. And when I went to the hospital, the doctors were pounding on my hand saying, "Do you feel it here?" And I kept saying, "Yes, I do feel it there." And it's impossible. You cannot feel it there. You severed those nerves that control that hand is in a million pieces. We're going to have to cut your thumb off tomorrow. And I said to them, "You will not cut off my thumb."
I love you. That's how you talk to them. No, you're not mine.
And I said to the doctor, he said, "And just what makes you say that you're not going to cut off? I'm the surgeon. You will not cut off my thumb." And I realized at that moment when he was telling me, he was so emphatic that he acted as if he knew what the plan was for my hand. So I said to him, I said, "Sir, all of my entire life, people have told me my gifts were in my hands. So if there is a God above, he would not allow me to use my thumb. I'm too young. I haven't done that much. I haven't been as creative as I even began to want to be. And therefore, that's the reason why I know that I will have my thumb." When the doctors did the surgery, they came back and he said, no, first of all, they would not do the surgery because they said I was delusional and I had to see a psychiatrist first.
Oh, wow.
So they sent the psychiatrist to see me. This man walked into the door and he had to turn to get inside of the door because he was so rotund. So I said to him, "They sent you in here to help me?" I said, "Sit down. You've got some problems. You're taking out your vengeance on the refrigerator." So he sat down and we talked and talked and talked. And he finally said, "I could talk to you for hours more." He said, "You're a very interesting person." He said, "Don't let anyone tell you that there's something wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. You keep thinking the way you think." To make a long story short, when they operated on my hand, they came back and they said, "Mrs. Maples, the nerve that controls everybody's thumb is right here. But the nerve that controls your thumb is not here, it's here." We had to cut.
Hold on, I'm gonna zoom that in there. Go ahead.
We had to make an incision here just to see how you're wired, because you're not supposed to have a thumb. So I said, oh my God, I just figured it out. On the day that I was conceived, the father said, flip those nerves, please, over there.
Yeah, because she's gonna have a moment in the future. And one of the reasons he does that is because he's not restricted by time. He knows your future.
He knew
knows
my
it.
future. He knew that I was going to have that encounter with that electrosaw, and he knew that there were so many more things I wanted to do. with
Mercy,
these
huh?
hands.
You would think, well, why wouldn't they keep me from getting cut by the electric saw? How would you know he was involved in a situation if he kept you from that? You have to go through that to see his work. You got to get deep under the surface to see his work.
Do you know how many people I've told this story to? Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, because I love to tell this story.
Wow.
And the reason why I love to tell this story is because when I initially cut my hand, my husband said, oh my God, Jan, that's the worst thing that could ever happen to you, because you're not going to be able to do all your crafts. That's not going to happen to me.
Right.
I never thought about the negative aspect of me opening my
All
hand.
praise. Yeah, absolutely.
I just couldn't do it. Why? Because I believe one thing that my parents had always told me.
Your parents. There go your
God,
parents again.
Because God had given me gifts in my hand.
So again, you're triggering me because I tell my children all the time about their God-given gifts.
Exactly.
They are there for a reason.
Yes.
You must use them. You have a responsibility to evolve them.
Yes.
To develop them and to use them, because there is a moment waiting for you in time. There's a special moment for you. A special moment where that gift is going to open a door. It's going to bring you joy and fulfillment. You understand?
You're so right. And it's not as if we have to travel and say, oh, I hope and pray one day I'll find that door. That door is coming to you.
It's coming. It's already on the way. Actually, if it's not there, it's because we're kind of keeping it in some of our own ways. Because anything that is in your spirit, it will manifest in your life.
Everything that is in your spirit will manifest, even though it is not time when we think it should be time.
One thing I want to add is just that the reason why her nerves were flipped like that is because she's an identical twin.
Yes.
And they asked her too, wait, do you happen to be an identical twin?
That's how they figured it out.
Wow.
That's how they figured it out. They said, we've only seen hands like this in identical twins. And we don't know why identical twins have these crazy things that's with their bodies. And he
You're
said,
blowing my mind.
are you an identical twin? He says, well, that's where it is. I wasn't planning, or the Most High hadn't necessarily planned me to be a twin. It may have been a second thought. We got to make this kid a identical twin, and then she's gonna have one of her stories to tell.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So that is such a divine moment.
Yes, it was. And every time I look at this scar, Father,
I can see it from here.
Father, once again, you showed me your love. You showed me your mercy in my life.
Mercy. At the end. See, but pay attention to this. Most people would take the saw and become a victim at the saw.
True.
And they would have resentment towards God at the saw. You went, endured that process, tested we got to cut your thumb off. No, you're not cutting my thumb off. You endured a process, a very challenging test of your faith.
Yes.
Of you believe. Do you really believe you need your thumb? Do you really believe I gave it to you? You forced them to reevaluate the situation and find God. They found God in the situation.
That was a very powerful testimony.
It was the doctors could not imagine.
I can't
why
imagine.
I had a thumb. As a matter of fact, he took a piece of paper and he became so frustrated with me. He took the paper and laid it down and he took a pen and he just kept going like this.
I bet he was mad.
He was just going like this.
Like you weren't even connected to your flesh.
He said, do you see how many times I'm making this? Do you see this? That's how many pieces your nerve is cutting.
Wow.
And he says, and you're going to tell me that you're going to have a thumb?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Yes, and you
I
sure got
told
your. I
you.
love your thumb. Give me a thumb. Hold on. Give the audience a thumbs up. There she goes. Gives the audience a praise God because she refused to give up that thumb. And let me
No
tell
way.
you, we got to do the same thing in life. Like we really have to make sure that we stand on what God gave us. This vessel is one of those things. We don't come with zippers, okay? Because in the medical field and knowing that I'm in the health field, when I look at the medical field, one of the first things they do in our community is cut things off or cut things out. They're very quick to remove an organ that God put in there that he knows you need. And then when they do those things, we end up with anti-inflammatories for the rest of our life that cause a million other complications, and they just slowly break the rest of our body down. So for you to stand firm and say, you know what, I'm not having that. God gave me this limb. God gave me this thumb. I know there's a purpose for it. I've been using it all my life. I know my hands are part of my gift, and you're going to have to figure something else out. And the only thing they found out was that God was involved, and they had to avoid their foolish thinking. So praise God for that.
So true, so true. And it seems as if my life has been that way since my conception.
You said that a few times now.
Yes.
You said, and I'm going to touch on that because I believe that it has more to do with that parenting focus and details in that parenting specifically.
Absolutely, absolutely, 100%. And whenever I'm around children, I don't care whether or not they are related to me or not. I'm going to focus in on that child because you will seldom see a child that really does not need an extra hug, an extra word of encouragement, because parents are too busy nowadays.
Wow.
They're busy looking at their phones.
Wow.
You will see the average person looking at their phone all the time. They could have a child sitting next to them in a waiting room, and guess what? The child has a phone or a tablet. They want to keep that kid busy. They want to
keep that kid busy.
To take that child and talk to him about how creative and what a genius you are. I spent a month in California last month with my twin sisters' grandchildren, and their father came in my room one day and he said, Gagi, he said, these kids want to be around you all the time. I've never seen anything like that. He said they weren't like that with your twin. They weren't with who was their grandmother. They're not like this with my mother. He said, what is it about you that make kids want to be around you all the time? And I thought about it. I said, I don't know. I said, maybe it's because I tell them where their genius is. And I tell them every day, do you realize that you're a genius? Do you realize when you made that necklace yesterday, no one could have done that necklace the way you did it? I tell them that. I see their genius. And I assure them, look at me. Look at Gagi. You see how many jewelry pieces I can make? That's because someone made me believe that I had talent in these hands.
Who's someone?
My dad.
Talk about it.
My dad used to tell me that my parents would throw away nothing. They used to say, the shells from peanuts, don't throw that away, give that to Gagi, she'll make something out of it. I believe them because I thought my parents were the smartest people in the world. And at a time in my life, when I had moved to California with 3 kids and $177, the one thing that I knew that I had is what my parents told me.
Your gifts.
My gifts. And I said, well, I didn't have to worry about money before because my husband was wealthy. But now I've got to depend upon myself. At that time, I probably said to myself, this is the most horrible thing that could happen to a person like me. I didn't go to college. What am I going to do? But I believe what my parents had told me. The first time I made jewelry, I'd gone to a flea market and I saw a box of flatware. I wonder if I could make something out of that. My mind is racing. I bet you I could make something out of that. Miss, how much do you want for that box of flatware? She says, $4. I'll give you $2 for it.
I love that. So you didn't know what you were gonna make yet,
I didn't know.
but you believed you could.
I believed
So
that I
you
could.
bought it without knowing what you can do with
I
it.
didn't have
People
a
don't understand
clue.
this. Listen, if you guys are paying attention and you're not hearing these
Not
gems,
a
I don't know what to
clue.
tell you, man.
I had never made nothing that I could sell. I had never made anything that I could sell at that point in time in my life. But I saw it and I believed it. When I took that flatware out and I did, Trevor, what I did with you, I said, I'm going to write down everything that I sell out of this because I've got to convince myself that I can do it. So the first thing that I did, I cut the shank off of the spoons and I bent it. I always had very strong hands. I made a bracelet. I took to cut the fork parts off of the silverware, the forks, and made earrings. When I got finished, I made $460 out of that one little box.
400 and how much did you pay for the box again?
$2.
You paid $2
She
for
wanted
the
$4,
box.
but I gave her $2.
Oh my! And so you negotiated.
Always.
Oh
You have to
man.
always negotiate. Never give them what they want.
Oh wow. Oh wow.
You got to say, I love it, but I just can't give you that much for it.
That's what I need to be
And
saying.
seniors always ask for your senior discount.
Always has.
And if they say no, you mean to tell me, do you have a grandmother? Well, in honor of your grandmother, let me be your first senior citizen.
Oh, wonderful. We're going to start it today, huh?
That's
Gagi,
right.
Oh, yeah. Praise God.
Gagi, I want you to talk about probably what is your biggest story of faith, which is about my dad. And so I just kind of intro it is that both me and my father were not supposed to be here, but through really the Most High stepping in, we both are.
Yes. When I found out that I was pregnant with Trevor's dad, I had it up to my neck with being abused by a man who was cruel to me, who yelled at me, who didn't treat me the way my father told me I should be treated. And I decided to leave. Well, I didn't know what I was going to do because I'm pregnant. So I decided, well, listen, I can have an abortion, even though at that time it was illegal. So I decided to have the abortion. So I'm waiting for my sister to pick me up to take me. So I put my coat on. I sat on the side of the bed. I leaned back and I turned over. And all of a sudden, I felt on my left shoulder, there's no one in my house. So I'm frozen with fear. Someone has come into my house. I finally got enough nerve to just turn around like this. And this baby is saying, Mom, I want to live. I want to live. I was not asleep. I said to this child, who are you? And he says, I'm your son. I said, you cannot be because you have brown eyes and no one in my family has brown eyes. All of a sudden, I knew that my baby had come to me and had begged for his life. And my sister is ringing the doorbell now, and I opened the door. I said, Jean. She said, you don't have to say anything to me. Something has happened. I said, Jean, my baby came and said he wanted to live. 8 months later, I'm in the hospital, completely forgotten about the fact that I could have ever thought about terminating my pregnancy. They brought this little red baby to me, big. I lifted him and he opened his eyes and I screamed to the top of my voice, oh! The nurses came from everywhere. Mrs. Geis, what is it? I didn't know what to say. I couldn't say this brown-eyed kid came to me. I said, my baby, I think he's blind. She said, no, he isn't, mother. He has the most beautiful brown eyes I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm. Praise God.
Now, that is a true story.
Absolutely.
If you notice the beautiful brown eyes that my grandson Trevor has.
As a witness?
As a witness, he got them from his beautiful brown-eyed dad.
Praise God.
Who's my son.
And I have a similar story with that, So my mother was thinking about aborting me. And so at that time, her and my dad were not on the best of terms. And so she was thinking about aborting me. And so she was really thinking about it, and wanted to call up her friend and go out to dinner with her and to talk about it and to say, this is what I'm thinking about X, Y, and Z. And her friend was saying back, yeah, I really wanted to talk to you too. Let's go out to dinner. They go out to dinner and they pretty much beat each other to saying it, I'm pregnant. And so that was the thing for her that said, wait, I'm in this with somebody that my best friend,
Wow.
been my best friend for however many years, is in this. And so me and
I'm not alone.
Yeah, I'm not alone. And so me and the best friend's daughter, we're 4 days apart.
Wow.
And so it was really beautiful. And the thing is that it was kind of awesome too, is that my first childhood home was an apartment. We lived on the 3rd floor and they lived on the 1st floor.
Oh.
And we were like brother and sister almost for like the first 7 years or so of our lives. And it wasn't until later until I really found that story out, but it was so beautiful, especially in the context of learning how Gagi, saved my dad. And
No,
just,
I didn't.
Well,
the Most High save
Yeah.
you.
Praise God.
Well, the thing is that you got to think about how you're not the only person that has had those moments. My mom is not the only person that's had those moments. Somebody that wouldn't listen to the voice of the Most High, in the situation with my mom, she could have heard, oh, I'm pregnant, I'm about to have an abortion, and then I wouldn't be here.
Right.
That it's about being able to listen, because the Most High can send out that message. It's about us being able to hear it and act upon it. Because the thing is that if you're really awake to some stuff, the Most High sends out messages a lot. And it's just about us being able to listen to it and act on it.
So
and this is where we end up having these testimonies and these powerful stories, is that when we really are tuned in and then we're listening to it, that's what happens.
And that's how he functions in every situation.
Yeah.
And even if you look at it biblically, he would in the Old Testament, he would, if you made a mistake or if you sinned or whatnot, he would charge you a lamb or something, right? So he would cause you some financial struggle. He would, all these little things to guide you into the right decision. We don't do that today, but if you're aware enough, you will feel all the nudges around you, keeping you in the right track, keeping you in the right track. And when you move out of that area, that's where danger really, that's where you find yourself in unfortunate situations and circumstances.
It's so true. But the one thing is that if we know that the Most High never forsakes us, he never abandons us. And the one thing at that time, even in our time that we're not thinking righteous thoughts, my thought about destroying my baby's life was not at all a righteous thought. But the Most High knew my heart. My father and mother had talked to me, and they were blue in their face. Janet, you don't want to do this. You don't want to have this abortion. And I was saying, I can't live with this child's father. I have no choice. I was convinced of that. I didn't know that he was going to have my baby to tap on my left shoulder. But I knew that that was nothing that really, my parents weren't happy about it. I wasn't happy about it, but I just felt defeated.
How old were you when you got married?
I was 18 back then. I was very young.
That's what. Now I understand. Because I say to myself, someone with the mom and dad that you had, that instilled all of these extremely intentional and conscious things inside of you, in your mind and in your spirit, to
Yes.
really get you in the right track, to make sure that you can overcome every
Yes.
obstacle in life. They did that.
Yes, they
So
did.
I was wondering to myself, how did she find herself in a situation where she did not know the character of a person before she was in too deep? How,
Oh.
what? So, but as a young age, I can
Well,
understand that.
that was something that happened because it's no secret that my husband, my children's father, molested me, and I didn't
know that. I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, it was at a time in my life where I couldn't imagine having to present to my parents, I'm pregnant. That was, to me, worse than the fate of death. Having my parents, for number one, thinking that perhaps they had always told me all of my life, don't give any man your virginity.
Right.
You only give that to your husband.
Only to the man who earns it.
Yes. And so I knew that.
Oh,
and
man.
But by the same token, I thought, if I tell my dad that this man molested me, I knew how my father was with his girls. Oh, yes. Yeah. My father was the type of man, he didn't play that.
Rightfully so. I'm a dad. I don't play that. I'll kill somebody.
My father have always said that. My father said to my husband one time, if you ever touch my daughter again, I will kill you if I have to bite you to death. That's a serious man about his kids.
Yeah, yeah.
And he meant that.
Talk to me about your dad. I want to hear about your dad. Growing up with him.
Dad was an amazing person. Every Saturday was showtime on Broadway. He would buy us all of the musicals, Showboat, The Sound of Music, Carousel, and he would teach us these songs. And we would perform them. Showtime on Broadway. That is a father that spent all of his waking time practically
with his children,
with his kids.
I love it. And me not having a dad, I didn't have a dad when I grew up. And I do have my daughters. I grew up with them for the most part. There was a period of time where that was disrupted for a few years. But my little chitlins came back to me, praise God. And, and I am that hovering dad too. I am very much that guy.
You have to be.
Why do you see? I see so many ladies and young women these days that don't have any of your mentality, but all I hear is the benefit of having your mentality. Why do you have to be? Why? Why is that important to be that type of dad?
Because that gives you the feeling of being safe. I knew that my father would protect me. It didn't matter what. My father was going to protect. My father was a strong man. And my father took every opportunity to show us how strong he was.
How so? Give me a story.
Yes. I'll never forget this. We lived on the second floor at some point in our lives. And my dad had bought a new refrigerator. His best friend had told him, Ace, don't try to bring that refrigerator downstairs by yourself because I know you. I'll be over when I get off and work. What did Daddy do? He says, I can take the refrigerator downstairs by myself. Rawr. So he calls my brothers. He said, boys, come here. Let me show you something. He showed
teaching them how to be strong men.
He showed them how to take a refrigerator downstairs by yourself.
I love that. I would have done it too. Let me teach you while I'm at it.
Yes.
Yeah. That is what men's supposed to do. In my understanding, and I didn't have a dad, keep in mind, but I did see some good male father figures. I was part of some good households, my friends that had really good dads. Well, my mom was smart enough to put me in organized sports where I was around a bunch of young boys who had over-hovering dads. So, there was a benefit of all these things. And unfortunately, I found myself in a system at one point where I was around the wrong kind of man, but I even learned from these men, and I took a lot from me. So I just think that's so good. good for a dad to be that type of involved.
Absolutely is, because that's one thing that will never leave a daughter is the love of her father.
That's I try, and it's not the simplest thing to do either,
No.
because you guys are very, so a little bit about on my end of background as far as raising. I do have two biological children that I've raised, since they were born, and in custody of the only minor still. Everyone else is over 18, and they're doing their own thing. Praise God for that. So that was my two biological kids, and then I also raised their sisters. And they're a bit older. So my youngest is 17. My oldest biological child is 19. I never really say my oldest child, because her sister, who's I believe 25 now, she's married. Listen, she's straight arrows, followed all the directions, tried to do all the right things. With her high school sweetheart, married her high school sweetheart, have a family with them. Everything the right way. I love it. But it doesn't go like that all the time for everybody. And as a dad, it's such a careful balancing act of disciplining your child, trying to get them to strive to do better, to inspiring them, but at the same time correcting them. And I don't want to say punishing, but that's my child. You have to have some corrective measures in there.
Yes. And I'll tell you quite frankly, is that I used to think that my parents wanted to raise us in a family ghetto, because they never wanted us to associate with people outside of my cousins and my aunts.
They were protecting you. They were protecting your mind.
We weren't allowed to do that.
No. So I'm glad that you weren't allowed to do it, because they didn't allow the wrong type of influence and the wrong type that's all they were doing. It was all protection. It's always protection when a man is trying to kind of, for the most part, especially a dad, let me rephrase that, a dad, because sometimes, in relationships, like you have an experience there. There's a level of a man doesn't allow you to function, but and that's, and we can talk about that a little bit, but as far as a dad, that for me, I need to know. I need to make sure my daughter is okay.
You have to do that.
We see so much in today's society with both men and women. The main issue is the lack of a father. If we talk about women, what Gagi is really talking about, if you really get to the crux of it, she was able to be the woman that she is and be in her feminine properly because she had a strong masculine figure, a righteous masculine figure.
Praise God.
A man will be able to be a righteous man if he's raised by a strong masculine figure. He's not raised by a woman that has to step in and out of her feminine, has to be the mom and the dad. And it's an unfortunate thing in our society now that we have a lot of black and brown people a lot of black and brown women that want to be the mom and the dad. I don't need
to be.
They think they can.
Or they try to be. They try to be.
And the
I
thing
understand.
is that even as pure as your heart is many right decisions that you make, our world exists off of balance. The Most High created everything in balance. That a man and a woman, a male and a female, are meant to create life and are meant to raise that life together. And so the thing is that's so unfortunate is that 9 times out of 10, a mom is going to be there. So we don't see as many times what happens when a mother is absent. We see so much in our society when we have the over aggressive females or the overly feminized males, that it's the lack of a father figure. And that's the thing that we really need to encourage, is that masculinity is a very important thing because it's all about balance. If we encourage the masculine, we can then encourage the feminine. And then there's nothing wrong with either, but it needs to be in balance. And then we shouldn't be as men stepping over and trying to be feminine, or, there's times for that to happen. But at the end of the day, our roles are so important, especially when we're talking about raising children.
It's true, Trevor. And the one thing that I can say about my dad, he wanted us to be strong women because, for instance, we were not able to get our driver's license unless we knew how to change a flat.
Wow.
My dad would say, "No, you're not going to
Oh my
drive until
God.
I show you how
I'm
to
gonna
change your
do
foot."
that.
And you know what he said? He said, "I don't want you to be helpless on the side of a road."
Oh my God, my daughter's gonna get her license on the 28th. Guess what we're doing from now until then? You're gonna learn how to change a flat tire. Praise God. And
Yes.
I'm always gonna be there for her. But
Yes.
what if the distance is too far?
Yes.
You know, what if I just can't get to you in the amount of time that I need to because you've put yourself in this situation? Then what do I need to do? You know,
Yes.
I need to make sure that you can handle it.
You can handle it. And I'll tell you another thing my dad would do. My dad used to love to work on cars.
Ah.
We'd have to sit
I'm not a big
there
car
and
guy.
listen to him tell us, what is this and what is that? This is how you change your oil.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you know, as I got older and cuter, I thought I did not want to get underneath that hood and
No,
everything,
no.
but I knew how to pretend as if I knew everything that was going on.
So I'm a chef.
Mhm.
So I'm always trying to teach them what I know. So your dad was probably he probably taught you everything he
He
knew.
wanted to
Everything.
do that. Yes.
Every time he was introducing you to something new,
Yes.
I'm sure there was an explanation process.
Yes,
There
it
was a
was.
disclaimer, and then there was a follow up at the end of it, right?
Exactly.
Oh,
That's right.
wonderful.
And he would explain that this is why. He would say, "I want you to recognize a good man when you see him." So that was why my father was such a fine example.
So, oh my God, I love everything about you.
Thank you. I love everything about you.
Praise God.
And you know what?
You
You
step out
remember?
the camera. We got
Wait,
a lot
wait.
of people
But you know what?
No, we're
But you know
good.
what? I'm so thankful to Trevor because he had this feeling when he first went past this place that this was a place he wanted to bring me. He kept saying, "Gagi, I'm taking you over to this place. I'm taking you over here." I didn't know what he was.
He thought he was healing you.
Yes.
All the time he was healing me. He was bringing you to me to heal me.
No,
Shoot.
vice versa. He wanted to do that.
Praise God.
And so the 5 minutes after meeting you, I knew.
Even over the phone. They talked over the phone and just
Yes.
straight.
Yeah, I
hit it.
know. I can't get enough of her every time I talk to her. That's the thing,
Yeah.
because she has such a solid perspective on everything. I can tell you something, and I say this as a hovering dad, right? I know you were raised by a man. I know for a fact.
Yes.
If you would not have told me that you were raised by a father, I would have sat down with you for 20 minutes to talk to you, and maybe shorter than that. But I like to get into detail and confirm things.
Right.
I would have knew without any question that you were raised by a dad.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's so important for a daughter to know. As my dad used to say, that room is going to be there forever.
Praise God.
Do you know my parents never changed our rooms? When we grew up and got married, they would remind us and remind the husbands, there's a room always.
My daughters don't live with me. My oldest daughter doesn't live with me. Same thing.
That's what my father wanted us to know. You always have a place.
Yes,
here.
you can always come under my protection.
Always.
You can always run to safety.
Exactly.
Always, because I know, and my daughters, as young ladies and as women in this, I understand God made them a weaker vessel, not a lesser vessel, a weaker vessel.
Yes.
They're different. They're built different. Like the brother was saying, man, our masculine role, we build things. We're strong. We like to set the stage. We like to prepare things. And there's a level of difficulty that comes with that type of work. And for a woman and for my daughters, and I'll tell you, and I tell my daughter all the time, when I'm coaching her, and because my daughter's so attentive. She is so attentive. She's just like me. She's just like us.
Yes.
She's one of those soakers that really follow. And I always tell her though, because when she's with me all the time, I move as a man. You understand?
Yes.
And she's always watching me move as a man. So she knows what a man is, and she recognizes it regularly. When I get out of the car, she stays in the car. She knows I don't open doors. I'm going to come around and I'm going to open her door.
Yes.
But I always have to remind her And I have to separate certain moments, and I have to let her know, hey, I had to handle that like a man. You would never handle that situation like that.
Yes.
I have to remind her, because especially when I'm in business, and sometimes a business is firm, and a business is stern, in my type of businesses.
Yes,
So men, when they're going to conflict for whatever reason, our voices get loud. Like you look at animals in the nature, they'll start growling and roaring, and huffing and puffing. It doesn't matter what animal. When you're, and they're making all this commotion because they're about to fight. They're about to fight.
Right.
So when I get situations on the phone of semi-conflict and I start talking, and I'm not going to say aggressively, but I'm firm. I am a very firm person, and I'll put somebody in their place immediately, especially if you're in the wrong, because it just has to be done. I don't have time for beating around the bush with grown people, especially children. I have all the time in the world to explain every aspect to them. But a grown person, and I also recognize when a certain grown person doesn't have the mental intellect to understand things, and then I do have to approach them like a child. And those are the people who hate being treated like a child, but they're always acting like a child. So that's a whole nother episode and story. But with that said, I understand that so when I'm speaking like that in front of my daughter or whatnot like that, and I try not to cuss and stuff like that. I try not to set a bad example. But I always let her know, that's not an approach that you would have. And that's also not a tone a man should have with you. This is a man-to-man thing. And you need to, and men don't understand that. Men and fathers don't differentiate that from men either, for boys, because a boy will see a father get aggressive with other men or get loud or even fight at times with other men. You have to protect your family in different situations. But a father doesn't always take the time to explain to a young man, hey, that's how you can defer to that for men, but you can't defer to that type of action when it comes to women. You have to have a different approach, and a father has to take the time to teach that. Like you said, it's not that we're going to enter into a feminine role, but we have to enter into a femininely conscious role that you're dealing with a feminine character, and you cannot, approach them the same way. So it's just something I want, I got long-winded there, but something that I pay attention to, and I want to differentiate.
And so, the one thing that my dad would always say, he would never allow my brothers to scream at us.
Praise God.
Stop them.
He taught them. See, he taught them.
He would say, you don't, you raising your voice on your daughter, so you want to teach her that a man is supposed to scream at her and disrespect her? No, he didn't do that.
Yeah, and it starts at the home.
Yes, it does.
Managing the children's relationship is, in essence, preparing them for every single relationship in their entire life and how to function and how to manage that relationship. And I don't care how old you are. Those principles that you instill when you're a child, they're going to manifest. And now when you do get older, and they manifest to you when you are blessed enough to see the truth about yourself. Because a lot of us, and I say it myself, there's a lot of areas where I have learned a lot of bad habits, and they brought me down in life, and I've had to come to the realization that, hey, you're the problem, Franco. You have to look at yourself. Your habit is the problem. Your decision making is the problem. Your reasoning is the problem. Your perspective is the problem, and you have to correct yourself now. You have to change this about you right now. It doesn't fit with the rest of your life. It doesn't fit with your program. It doesn't fit with what you're trying to accomplish, and it's going to keep you from receiving what you're asking for. You have to turn it around, and that's the approach.
And one interesting thing that I find today with our young women, they don't seem to understand the role of the woman in the family. The role
I gotta get you on your own screen. Go ahead and talk.
It's all.
Yeah, look at them. Talk to them. Talk to them, Gagi. Talk to them.
Listen, if you think that it's not your job to help your husband become a man, you're grossly mistaken. Let me explain to you the reason why. A man is nothing without a woman. What can a man do without having a woman by his side? I was married to one of the most successful computer engineers in Chicago. But when I met him,
real quick, the company still exists if you look it up. It's called Sentinel Technologies.
When I met him, there was one thing about him that I noticed is that he would listen to me. He had a lot of things that I didn't like about him, but he would listen. And when he had worked for a company here in Chicago that had promised him after, I think it was 5 or 7 years, he would have a vested interest in the company, I knew that it was never going to happen. How did I know that? Because women just have certain things they know. And so at the end of that period, he was devastated when they didn't announce it. And I told him these words. I said, honey, we're going to go in business for ourselves. And guess what we're going to do? We're going to run them out of business. And guess what we did? We did just that. And do you know why the company was so successful? Is because a man needs a helpmate. I was concerned about every aspect of starting that company. Do you think we should do this? Don't do that. This is what we should do. That's a woman's role. I mean, whoever said that women don't have to help men? I hear a lot of women saying, oh, unless he has this, he has to have a credit score of 7.9909, I'm not going to help it.
And the issue with that is that if you're looking for somebody that is a finished product of that level, then you have to be able to evaluate yourself as a woman from a male's perspective to see, are you somebody that is that finished product that he would want? Mm-hmm. If that's not the case, then you're looking for a raw deal. You're trying to give that man a raw deal. And it's really not fair, because the thing is that, again, it goes back to balance.
Yes.
That in so many different ways, a man's responsibility is the same as a woman's responsibility and vice versa. How those things are exhibited are very different. Man has to create himself and create value, and has to go out here and, okay, I got to start a business. I got to build myself up in terms so I can be a protector, provider, things like that. A woman has to maintain her value. And so what that means is that from the time that she's young and her father hopefully is saying that you are beautiful, you are smart, you are intelligent, and things like that, she maintains that. She hopefully is not sleeping around and things like that. She's learning how to be encouraging, how to be inspirational, how to be spiritual. Because women have a ability in certain ways, since they're a vessel, to receive spirits, which means the Holy Spirit or evil spirit. But hopefully they're able to be the encouragement, and so being able to maintain that's a lot, because if you're not, women end up in certain ways can receive consequences quicker. If we go into physiology, talk about how women get affected by being promiscuous more than men. Obviously, on both sides, you can get STDs, you can all these various things, build up an appetite for sex that is unnatural and things like that. But if you look it up, if a woman sleeps with a man and she receives his sperm, that sperm can stay with her for years and be implanted into her DNA to a point where it's that his thoughts, his traumas, his actions, things like that are implanted on her. That's a large responsibility in and of itself. On the other hand, a man has to be ready to take care of himself as well as her, and have the trust of her for her to be able to be a vulnerable and weaker vessel, and be able also to have the strength to say, at this time, I don't know what I'm doing, baby. What are we doing here? And that woman needs to be able to be spiritual enough and open enough to the Most High to be able to receive that spirit and be able to encourage him. So again, it's a balance.
Yes.
None of this comes in where it's saying that either person should be looking for a finished product, because so much of our lives are repairing and building, and we have to rely on each other in order to do that. There is no point in our lives that we can do anything by ourselves, that we can repair anything by ourselves, because a lot of the damage that is done by each other, intentionally or not, and so we're all trying to repair. So that means we got to lean on each other for all these various type of things. And again, it comes in with balance.
You sound like you know what you're looking for, Trevor.
I guess
you sound like you have an idea of the woman you want in your life, and spending so much time with Gagi and understanding the woman that she is and the dad that she had. I think it just benefits you greatly to be able to identify all the characteristics in Gagi
Yeah.
and say, hey, I know that she is a good woman.
Mhm.
I know that she is wife material,
Mhm.
and I know what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Look at
Yes.
the ripple effect.
Mhm.
So a good dad showed you
Yes.
what a good man was. A good dad showed you what, how to conduct yourself like a good daughter.
Yes.
And then because of that, your grandson can see what a woman is, and it goes down and down. If a man does his job, the whole household benefits.
Absolutely. And Solomon, one thing that my grandmother used to say as well is that you have to help your husband. And she would say that a man's not going to be successful by himself. My grandmother used to say, look at your grandfather. She used to call him Brother Powell. She says, Brother Powell didn't know anything until I came into his life. He didn't know how to plant this. He didn't know how to do that. And she used to say, it's important to have a man that will listen to you.
So let me ask you a question. I think I see a conflict in something though. And I want to know what do you think about it? Both of you guys, actually. So I hear the dad in you.
Yes.
You know your role.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. You know your role for sure. Now with that, like if your husband's going to do something, you're right there on him like it's yours, like you're the one doing it. And if you got to do it for him, you'll do it for him because you understand the vision, and you're going to help him manifest it.
Yes.
Right. So I understand that. Now, what I'm considering though is that your dad, though, he seems like a very, very disciplined, very firm, strong man.
Yes.
And it's very hard. See, as a father and a daughter, that relationship is great, right? That protection and that strength makes you feel so safe and so secure. And I understand that. But coming into a relationship now, where you have the same type of character of husband and you are not a child anymore, and you have your dad's ways in you.
Yes.
How does that, what do you do with that situation where you have a different type of man, right? A man nonetheless. The guy was successful. He ran a successful business. He's, I don't know if you helped him get there, how that really manifested. Talk to me about that. But I want to know how that manifested.
As I said earlier, it's important for a woman to understand a man cannot do it by himself. It's very difficult for Black and brown men to make it out here. It really is. So they have got to have that support at home. You have to let him know from jump, baby, I got you. Mommy's here. That's the thing that I don't see in a lot of young women nowadays. You have to be able to show your daughter how she's supposed to be with her husband. And you have to teach her, you've got to stick by your man's side.
It's something that I want to point out, and I think, Gagi, I think you'll be able to go off of this, is that one thing that somebody that watching this might be able to see that Solomon was just touching on is that while my great-grandfather was so great, my grandfather was an abusive man and was in many ways not the best person. The thing is, in that what happens sometimes in life is that sometimes we can feel trapped.
Yes.
And so Gagi will be able to go into this. She felt trapped at a certain point. That she dated this man and something was taken from her. And the shame of that made her want to stay in that relationship and made her want to stay there and deal with something that she would have not normally dealt with.
Yes, Trevor, that's so true. And there was a time in my life that I felt I'm trapped. How am I going to take care of myself? And it was at one time in my life, and I used to hear this. My mother would say, when you get enough, you'll leave. My grandmother would say, when you get enough, you'll leave. That's true. When you get enough of being disrespected, All of those material things that you have piled up over here, they could be to the ceiling. They'll mean nothing because you will realize I'm better than this. Why should I suffer abuse? Why should I be afraid at 4 o'clock when it's time for him to come home? Is everything perfect? Is he going to be upset about this? If he's going to hit me? When I was running down the street one day in nothing but my panties and bra on in the wintertime, running for my life. And my son is running behind me saying, "Run, mommy, run. He's going to kill you." Something said to me, "Jen, is this living?" And I said, "No."
Yeah.
That was my turnaround point. I said to myself, is this what I've lived is this what my parents raised me for? To be running for my life? Is this it for me? No. I walked back to the house without fear because in my mind, I'd rather go to hell.
So let me ask you a question. Because, and it's, my emotion is stirred when, and when you revealed to me that you entered in that relationship under the circumstances that you did, he took something from you that you were saving for somebody. I have no idea how to even process that still. As a man, I have no idea how another man can do that. But for a woman to go through that, I have no idea of the lifelong ramifications that can cause to a woman and the deep psychological, emotional, mental health, spiritual, difficulty that she's going to run into in life because of that moment, that significant moment. How do you reconcile with that, Gagi?
It can do, for the lack of better terminology, irreparable damage if you allow it to. It really can. But in my case, when I decided to leave, that point, that moment in my life where I was running for my life, I said, this is it. No more. Happened within my being that said, here I am in December in Chicago, running and slipping and sliding on ice in nothing except my bra and my panties. I was running for my life. But I said no more.
Praise God.
That was my moment.
Praise God.
And I had no fear. I didn't care what I had to go through in order to raise my children by myself at that time. I was prepared because we as humans, we are survivors. We're supposed to survive. And if we're worth our gut, if something is that we all have some redeeming qualities about us that we don't always tap into. It wasn't until I left my husband that I realized how valuable I was. He had reduced me to a point I didn't think I could pour water out of a boot with the instructions on the back.
What does that look like? The women need to understand what that looks like.
Women need to understand that when you look in yourself and you're running or you're afraid of a man, you stop living.
When you can't trust that you can't make a mistake, that everything that you do is going to come with
judged,
some violence
or you're going to
like
be
that.
punished.
But how do you get so you missed something because you find yourself in a situation? What were the telltale signals that say, hey, if this starts reoccurring, and if this starts reoccurring, does it start with an aggressive yelling consistently?
Yes.
Is that what that happens?
It starts with yelling.
Okay.
Because as I said, I had never heard of an adult scream at a child. That was not a part of my upbringing. I had never heard anyone who said they loved me scream at me. Or my parents didn't do that.
You never would have picked him.
No.
You never would have picked him.
I would have never picked him.
And so I think that's something that could be interesting too, is that what from the point of where that happened, where something was taken from you, what can you recall? What happened that made you continue in the relationship? What were those first couple interactions,
Okay.
those months, those 6 months, that year going forward to then where you guys got married?
Well,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we got-
I don't mean to put you through so much emotional stress.
no, it doesn't create that at all. What happened?
See, you're a
is this, is
survivor.
that,
I love it.
That I am.
Yeah, praise God.
And I was during that period when I decided to marry him. It was a quick decision that I made because I didn't want to bring the shame and reproach upon my parents. But what kept me there was the fact that we had a bigger house. We had nicer cars. My husband would shower me with material things because he was constantly paying penance to my children and myself, but material things. But it hit me one day.
What is it worth?
What is it worth? I looked around my house one day. Everything I looked at had been put there or suggested by John and Smith and Company. I hired their interior decorators to decorate my house. I looked and everything was perfect, but I looked into my heart and my heart was wretched. It had nothing. I was not happy with me prostituting myself for material things, living a life that was not a fulfilled life. And I felt that I was worth more than that.
You knew it.
I knew
your
that.
Your
dad
dad
told me that.
Right. That's and oh my God, it's so important.
My dad said that to me, and he would tell me.
That's how you recognized it. That's
Yes.
how you got it. That's why you got away.
Yes.
Because you recognize your dad did his
My
job.
dad did
He did his job.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he never stopped reminding me, even when I got married. He's not. Does he scream at you? Has he hit you? I could never tell my dad that he ever.
He stayed involved. Your dad would talk to you all the time when you were married.
I would see my dad every week.
But the thing is, what you that is the shame. That the thing is that if Gagi did not feel that shame, she could have said, "Yeah, he's hitting me," and it would have been so long.
Yeah, like she said, she didn't want to suffer her reproach. She didn't want to bring shame to her family. She, she was a prisoner because her heart was so good. It's so pure. It's like, I would hate for my dad, probably for your dad too. I would hate for my dad to be embarrassed, for the people to think the wrong thing, because we're not going to expose this situation publicly. They're going to assume I was being fast. They're going to assume I had a child out of wedlock. They're going to assume I wasn't raised right. They're going to assume I am out of order.
I had two choices that I thought about. I thought about committing suicide.
Oh my God.
I certainly did. I seriously thought about committing suicide. But the thing that kept me from committing suicide is that I would never be able to ask the Father for forgiveness. That would be my last.
That would be your fate.
My final act of taking my life, which that is wrong in and of itself. I'm killing myself. I'm committing a murder. And so that's the thing that eliminated the committing suicide. But believe me, had it not been for the fact that I was constantly believing, hearing in my ears, Jan, you can do this. You're creative. You're talented. You're gifted.
Yes.
That's the thing that kept
That
me
was
going.
it. That little voice
that made me believe.
That voice always came back up. It never let you. It never let you be defeated.
Never.
Let
me be defeated.
That's what a dad's job is too.
And I could walk into a company and get a job doing something I've never done before. Why? Because I had confidence. And I think confidence is one of the most important things that parents can give children.
It's a job.
Yes, it's absolutely. I said to my twins' grandson when I was in California, I said, Kai, you probably get tired of Gagi telling you how great you are all the time. And he says, no, I don't, Gagi. I love it. Because I'm forever telling him You are, and he is. He's most of the kids are so amazing, and when I'm telling him how wonderful he is, it isn't that he isn't wonderful. He's even more than what I tell him this all the time. Kai, there are not words to really tell you what my eyes see when I look at you. You
Aww.
are the most unique person I have met in the 21st century. You really are. And so when you give children this type of confidence in when they're stuck in life at a place that they feel is they can't go right, they can't go left, that brain will click in. My dad told me I was somebody.
I want to share something. I'm going to bring in a screen. Okay, we're going to see it on the TV right in front of us. We'll see it on our screens. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to share my screen. I want to show you something that I saw this week that I thought was one of the most impactful things that, let me get this screen. This is the one here. I got this muted for a second. I'm going to have to, I think, unmute it internally. I'm not sure if you guys are going to see it all the way it's supposed to be, but and the reason I want to share this and I want to show this is because it really puts me in the zone of what you're saying and the type of dad that you need to have in your life. So I'm going to share this screen here. There it goes. All right, we're going to share my screen. We're going to bear with me here. I'm going to get the right screen up here. All right. I'm going to unmute my computer here for a second. Oh, no, this one's good. Okay. I'm going to see if, I don't know if you guys, oh, you know what? I don't know if we'll be able to hear it out here. Let's try this real quick anyways. All right. So I can't hear it. So nonetheless, do you see the video that you see up there? So let me tell you what's going on there. And the people see it and I can't really see it. This gentleman is asking her about a match. This is Venus Williams and her father.
Oh, okay.
This gentleman is asking her about a match that she is going to be having with another child. She's 14 years old at the time. So he says to her, do you think you're going to beat this guy? And then she says to him, I'm actually going to let you hear it. I have it here in another form. And then she says to him, absolutely, unequivocally, 100%, I'm going to beat this guy, right? So let me see if I have this here in my reels. I usually put them up like that. So I want you to take a look at it. I believe I should have it here. Bear with me. We're live, so this is what we do when we're live, y'all. No worries. Everything is okay. But I want to, let me see if I can find it. Maybe I just shared someone else's stream and I want to show it with some audio. Here it goes. Okay, so I'm going to put this on pause here and we're going to start this back over, but I am going to let y'all see this from here, okay? And I want you to pay attention to this.
Okay.
You see it so easily. So easily.
Hold on. I want to get this to the beginning here. Come on now.
I know I can beat her. You know you can. Very confident. I'm very confident. You see it so easily. Why? Because I believe it.
And let me tell you what she was saying, she said it with so much confidence the first time. But you keep going on and on.
Listen, we can't keep interrupting. I mean, if you want,
You got to understand that you're dealing with an image of a 14-year-old child. And this child gonna be out there playing with your old ass and me gonna get in the grave. When she says something, we done told you what's happening. You deal with a little black kid, and let her be a kid. She'll answer it with a lot of confidence. Leave that alone.
I know I can beat her.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So she said, I know I can beat her.
Yes.
And then, let me get my screen back here. She says, hey, I know I can beat her. Oh, man, let me see. Did I get this
Like
wrong?
a house of mirrors.
It's funny. My twin used to take tennis lessons from him. And she would come home and tell me, I can't stand my fitness instructor. I says, why? She said, you should see how he treats his daughters. He had them outside in the rain playing tennis today.
Oh, yeah. So, but first, he built them for that. This is what you have to understand, because another parent would not understand how that child is completely okay with the situation. You know, he built them for that. That child is strong. That's why that child. So, you know, but the guy asked her, you know, do you think you can beat her? Right? Because a thought, or you think something, is not something that you've confirmed. It's just a thought. And she says, I know I can beat her. She had absolute confidence in her that there was no way that she could lose. She has never even probably imagined the thought of losing, and couldn't even conceive the thought of losing. And that guy that was interviewing her was going to disrupt that. He was going to plant doubt. He was going to bring out all the positive about the other young girl, and he was going to tell her, what about this challenge? What about that challenge? Are you sure you could overcome this challenge? And that's all she needs, because she's going to go home at night and she's going to say to herself, if her dad wasn't there, she would have said, and this is what they do to our children in school, by the way.
Yes, they do.
And in every single environment. They plant those doubts while we're not around. That's why I agree with your father. We need to segregate ourselves. We need to separate. I hate to say it. We need to separate. We need to separate. Yeah, because we need to love ourselves. We need to love each other. You know, we're not being loved properly, and we're not loving each other properly, and they're meddling in our relationship is part of the problem. Every time we got an issue, they pull up in the cop car and situate the situation. Every time we got an issue in our community and with our relationships, then we're in their courtrooms and they're determining what's happening with our children. We need to get them out of our business.
We do.
We need to get them out of our business. But that's the type of dad that I can appreciate, and I'm like that. If I see anyone, and I don't care if it's another child, I will stop it in the tracks. Hey, you're not putting that in my kid's head. My kid, no, we're on a whole nother program over here. Okay, everything we can believe in, everything that we can conceive, we can achieve 100%. And there's a formula to it. There's an actual proven formula to it. And they see me do it every day. They see me with 4 or 5 businesses, running all the businesses, running with a chicken with my head cut off, and they see effort, they see focus, they see determination. And I say, hey, this is the recipe.
That's right.
But I'm in my moment and I'm in my purpose.
That's right.
Everything I do, I'm compassionate about. These are my gifts. I'm building everything with my own hands. When we got here, the studio wasn't all the way up to par. Me and Trevor, and we all worked it out together. And what did I say? I said, I have an engineer. I'm not really good at this. I'm not the best at this. Was that an excuse? No, we're live, baby.
Yes.
We're live right now. Because we weren't letting anything disrupt what we were trying to accomplish. And that's the attitude you have in life. That's the attitude that he was having there. You're not having it. You're not planting a seed of doubt in my daughter. I'm stopping it now. I'm not even going to wait until you do it to try to explain to her why you were wrong. You're not going to make her experience that. She's not going to experience that.
Exactly.
And something that was so interesting is that if you really caught it, the guy did not mean it in a negative way. But the thing is that our world is designed in a way that you can't be special. Why are you special? You first have to show us that you're special. You first have to reach the top of the mountain before we say that you're special. If you say it as you're on the journey, no, we can't. We have to doubt you. But the thing is that our mind works in a funny way that we don't work off of our conscious mind 99% of the time. We work off our subconscious. So every time somebody says you can't do something, it's going to be put in your head. Every time you say to yourself, I can do it, I will do it, and I'm going to see it tomorrow, I'm going to see it the next day. And if I don't see it, I'm going to try again, I'm going to try again, I'm going to try again. That goes into that subconscious. And so, Richard there was combating him so strong because he is a man of faith in his beliefs, and he knew his convictions that, hey, I'm gonna put positive things into my daughter's mind. But other people that are not on that wavelength, they don't realize that you have to constantly encourage yourself with positivity, because what in this world, if you send your kid to a normal school, what are they going to learn? They're going to learn how to work a 9-to-5 for somebody else making $50,000 a year, which is now in 2023 not enough money, and they eat a crazy diet of death and everything like that. The thing is that we have to implant and maintain positivity, because positivity in this world, for whatever given reason, we know the reason, but it's not encouraged and maintained. That every everything in this world, in the mainstream, in some type of level, wants to bring down our vibration, wants to bring down the level of encouragement. Because the thing is that it's when you go to day, there's a lot of things that you do consciously. For the most part, a lot of it's subconscious, and it all starts with what you tell yourself and what you allow other people to tell you.
Jerry, that is something that when we went to school, we went to a predominantly white school. And my parents would say to us these words: you carry yourself different from everyone else. And that was something that the kids used to say. Oh, you wares think you're something. You talk like you're white. Your wares think you're this and your wares think you're that. And we come home. And I remember one time telling my dad this. I said, Daddy, I said, the kids always say that we think we're so much. And he said, you are so much. You are better.
What an answer. Praise
You
God.
are better. He says, if some kids tell you, you think you're better than everyone else, you are better than everyone else. Don't tell them, say, no.
It's not your job to bring yourself down.
He said, tell them you don't think you're someone. You know you're someone.
You know you're someone.
And he said, never allow anyone to tell you are less.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
That's what he says. Do you think you can beat her? I know I can beat her.
Exactly.
That's how you know she had a dad. So when I hear you speak, listen to what I'm saying. Yes. For you young brothers out here, for y'all brothers who's listening out here, pay attention to what the conversation is really going on, because it helps you identify something too. A woman of strength, a woman of courage, a woman who's going to encourage you and lift you up. But she needs to know how to do it for herself first. How can she lift you up and help you in your troubling times when she doesn't know how to do that on her own? Exactly. You see what I'm saying? So you have to pay attention for it. And if you find yourself, and I'm just saying, if you find yourself with someone who doesn't really know how to function like that, then you got two choices. One, you got to walk away and find someone who does, or two, you got to find a way to help her understand her position better. Because you can't take, for example, if she wasn't raised by a dad, what are you going to do at that stage? If you got feelings for her, you care for her, and you love her, and you want to see better for her, what are you supposed to leave her be when you have this affection towards her? Or are you going to say, you know what, I'm not your dad, but I am a man. And I understand the role I have to play here. So there's two things. One, as a brother, are you willing to do that? Are you willing to suffer through someone's trials and suffer through someone's ability to adjust to you? And on the other end, the young lady who finds herself in a situation that she has affection or cares for someone, but she just doesn't know how to express anything properly for the most part, because she didn't really have a structured man to show her, hey, no, this is not, this left, this right. So in her case, how does she understand how to receive and how to not to feel belittled, and not how to feel inferior, not how to feel talked down to when she is being corrected, because correction is part of your dad corrected you guys. Absolutely. He grabbed the boys to the side and said, you don't yell at your sister. Exactly. And he let you guys know, hey, you don't let nobody yell at you guys. You see what I'm saying? Exactly. So how do we reconcile that moment there where you have a man and a woman who's going through that?
That is a very good question. That's when it comes down to self-worth, and which comes to parenting. It all goes back to parenting.
All of it.
And that you have got to teach your children that they are the best thing that ever happened to you.
Praise God, yeah.
And that there's nothing that they cannot do.
That's a belief. Now, what do they have to do behind that? So if you're going to tell somebody something, right, because if you got to tell somebody, hey, I'm the best thing that happened to you, he probably going to be like, show me.
Okay.
Show me.
I'll show you better than I can tell you.
Okay, there you go.
And you really believe that within yourself. And that goes right back to us having a sense of knowing our Heavenly Father. Mm-hmm. We have to start at a very early age of knowing our walk spiritually. When all else failed, Father, I need you. Mm-hmm. And you will find out each and every time He was there.
All of it.
He is always there.
Never
There
not there.
is not one single thing that we desire in our heart that we cannot have. I have never wanted anything in my life that I have not had. I remember when I was
Me neither.
25, I said to myself, I heard Peggy Lee say, is that all there is? Is that all there is to that? Because I said, I'm 25 and I've had everything I wanted to have. I've had the fur coats, I've had the diamond rings, I had the beautiful, I had it all. But it taught me the reason why I had it all, because I believed within myself
Mm-hmm.
that I could do it.
Nobody else can ever sell 1,000 frozen cucumbers on a popsicle. I tell you, you got to have supreme belief, and then turn around and do the bear project within all, you know, the
No, you
safety
gotta
projects.
do it.
Oh my
You
God.
do it because I don't think that the Most High gives us stupid, frivolous thoughts that we cannot accomplish.
Of course not.
He doesn't do that. He gives us that mind because he knows she can do it. She can do it. She'll believe it.
Look at you snapping your fingers with your thumb that you weren't supposed to have. You see what I'm
There you
saying?
go.
I see some beautiful pieces of
Oh,
I need to know
yes.
about these things.
Of course, this is my jewelry. That I
That's
made
your jewelry.
and Trevor's.
That's your. How come I'm the only one that doesn't have one? Don't worry
I will
about it.
make you
On the next
something.
show, we're gonna figure it out.
Now, yeah, because
Tell-
I'm thinking, my brain is thinking I could teach jewelry making right here.
I don't see the problem. You know, that's all we have to do is come up with a date every week, the same time.
Yes.
Set a stage, get a nice table here, and we can. The people need you. I'm telling you, our young ladies need you.
They do.
That's one of the reasons I know they do.
They
And
do.
it's one of the reasons I need to get you out here as much as I possibly can. Trevor's going to be involved in that process. I may be engineering one day. He may be engineering one day. We'll all be together. One, it doesn't. Maybe you'll be engineering one day. You just come in here. I got
Listen,
something
you
to
see,
say.
That's why I ask
I
so
got
many
something-
questions, because I like to learn.
But you know, and you know, everybody needs what you got to say though, because your perspective is so refreshing to me, and it's also it's cut both ways. You see, because I you know, I became a dad when I became a dad, and I had but I didn't have a dad growing up, so I'm very aware of a lot of toxic masculine traits that I do have.
yes.
There is such a thing.
Oh, yes. there is.
On both ends.
Yes, there is.
There's a toxic way to be on both ends for sure.
Absolutely.
So I do understand those things. I do tend to raise my voice more than I'd like. And to my daughter, sometimes I do it. I do it much less now, for sure. I'm very much more aware of it. My daughter has taught me that, though. My daughter has taught me that. She's the one who she teaches me so much, actually, about myself.
Oh, absolutely.
And really brings me back into my place. So that on that end, I said to myself, okay, Franco, based on those circumstances, you may be unlucky for a while, because you need to make sure that you can speak in a way and communicate in a way where it's loving and it's accepted and received. But my thing, and maybe you can help me here, is when I am loving and kind and very soft, nothing ever gets actually done. Like no one actually takes you serious,
Right.
you know. How do is it just I'm talking to the wrong person? You know, does the right person respond to kindness, and some people respond to a different? Help me understand this.
That's very difficult to find that medium, that happy medium, because if you're too soft, you're going to be looked upon as being weak.
Weak, yeah.
And if you're too harsh, you're going to be looked upon as being mean. And even at my age, I'm still learning how to have a balance, because I can be very pushy.
Because you had a dad.
Yeah.
Your dad taught you initiative. Your dad taught you to be a go-getter.
Yes.
These are traits that men have.
Yes.
But I'll tell you, guess who else has that trait? Proverbs 31 woman. Have you ever read Proverbs 31?
Yes.
That woman right there
That's
had a good dad.
Exactly.
That woman can do everything a man can do, except be a man.
But see, that's the thing that the reason why I say that women need to understand the importance of them helping their husbands. If you think this is a man that is for you, you let him know. There will never be another day that you have to walk alone, sweetheart. Learn how to speak sweet things. It doesn't take a genius to know how to handle a man.
Oh, tell me. Oh my God, tell me about
we
it.
know how to innately. We know how to handle you.
Yes.
And
Maybe
I
the
don't
intent.
I mean
No, you
that
do.
very affectionately.
You do.
You really do. And it's all about being sweet and kind.
In your femininity.
And looking at using your femininity
As your advantage.
have a
It's your
whole
superpower.
arsenal here.
Everything. If your soft words don't work, your soft body will. You know, I get it.
My grandmother used to say, never go to bed with your husband being angry at your husband. She said, I don't care what you have to do. You don't let the sun shine with you being angry at your husband. She meant that.
Yeah.
And she taught us that.
Have you ever been remarried?
Yes.
Okay. Are you still remarried?
No, my husband is, both my husbands passed.
He passed away. Were you married with him until he passed away?
I was, he no.
With your second husband?
With my second husband, yes, he passed away.
Did you? So I'm glad I brought this up because I was so disheartened because I found out I know we've spoken and I think you've mentioned, but the detail that I got today really put me down in the spirit of knowing, because I teach that to my daughters, like, hey, try to save that for, don't save that for, the special person. Did you do it better the second time?
I thought I did it better. And when I say I thought I did it better, because this person was interested in safety. By this time when I married, I was into safety, accident preventions. That was his field. That's how we met. But the one thing that I had not taken into consideration is that he was a retired colonel in the U.S. Army.
Firm guy.
When I was picketing the war in Vietnam, he was fighting it. And I realized after I had married him that he was a warmonger. And how did I find that out? Is when the war started in Kuwait, I think it was. And I was at the store when I saw it on the TV in the story that the president had declared war. And I pushed my clothes and I got in my car and I just boohooed and cried. Because I'm thinking, oh my God, people are going to die. Mothers are going to lose their children. Wives are going to lose their husband. I was upset. So when I came home, I sat in my car and I'm trying to get myself together. And I'm crying over this. And I walked into the door and he swung the door. Baby, Cohen got it going on.
Oh, wow.
I looked at him, you warmonger. You're a warmonger. I realized that this man was excited about fighting. He got on the phone. He's calling everybody. But
he's a man.
He wanted to go and fight again.
Oh, he wanted to go to the war. But guys like that. Guys like competition. I know you don't like it so much for women, but guys like that. Guys like to know that we're the big dogs.
Competition and murder is something different.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah. But like, because the United States is like a big guy, though. You know what I mean? Exactly. And I get, I am against that. I was against it, but
I know.
I was trying to get his mind frame.
His mindset was so entrenched in being a soldier. He could never get over that.
Yeah,
as a matter of fact,
I can see
he
that.
killed himself because he wanted to get back in the military.
Yeah, I can see. I can understand that. Institutionalized in a different way.
He was raised by the military.
Right. So that's how you function. That's the environment you like to be in. You excel in that environment. You've mastered that environment. And being civilized is it's not what they train you in that environment. They actually train you to be counter civilized. They train you to yeah.
But, I mean, I had 2 marriages, and I tell Trevor all the time that I'm praying for a righteous husband.
All praises. Sound like my mama.
I see nothing wrong with. They always tease me.
I don't see any. But all I'm saying though, What would you do different this time now? What's the third time's the charge? What's
my
what's the
goodness.
third time
I've
charge?
learned so many things now that I didn't know even 25 years ago. The process never ends.
No.
We're forever learning.
Life is a learning experience.
It is a
That's
learning
it.
experience.
The whole thing.
And not only are we learning from a secular level, but we're learning spiritually. Our heart, as long as it's beating, we're learning something about our
Absolutely.
spirituality.
Absolutely.
And that's the number one thing that I did not apply in my 2 marriages.
Yeah, but the first one wasn't.
The one- our first one-
I don't consider that a marriage at
No,
this
it was-
stage.
no, it-
You were
I was-
you made the best out of your situation
I
as
did.
long as you
I
possibly
did.
could, and you tried to turn it around the way I see it as much as you
I
could.
did.
But that was not the right situation.
No, it was
It's not going to happen. So
and it was at the time that I needed to get out of the situation that I was with the colonel. The Most High just made it happen. He was no longer there.
So my mom brings up a point. She goes in the tap. She says, you've been raising your voice since you were a kid. She says you do it when you sell the products in your store. You do it when you talk about the word of God. You have always been like that since you were a kid. It's always been in your DNA. You just have to manage. So my question is, how do you differentiate that? I would call it compassion. I would call it passion, because I do, like, even here, I get really excited, and maybe in the wrong type of conversation, it may be received in the wrong way. But that's how I'm passionate. Like in this conversation, at no time would you guys assume that I was being aggressive because of the conversation itself. But if it was a conversation about you versus me, or things I'm trying to help you accomplish, or something that you're saying on this end, then maybe I can understand. But how do you reconcile that?
I think you just stay the way you are.
I think the thing is that you have to be deliberate about the things. All of us need our safeguards. We have to realize that what are the things, can be the double-edged swords a part of us. So you have a double-edged sword where you're saying that, all right, I can be very verbose, I can be very loud. So that means that that when things get tough, when things get things like that, you got to take a step back. Let me breathe first. Let me take a step back.
This guy's gonna be great.
Because I know that when things can get bad, I can get more aggressive. So that
be conscious of it.
Yeah, and so you just got to know that every other place in my life, this is great. This has put me where I am today. If I'm dealing with my children, I'm dealing with the significant other, things are getting hard, I just got to, all right, breathe for a second, go forward. That's what I think.
I thought about that before too. Like, my discernment has got me so far, but when do you question your discernment?
But I personally think that any person that you would want and need in your life will be able to determine who you are and what you are. They're never going to think that you this out of control lion. They're not going to see that, because they see your spirit. They see your heart. And it doesn't matter how loud you talk. The most beautiful thing about you is your relationship with the Most High.
All praises.
And so he controls who you are.
All praises.
And what you are.
Was your dad like that? Was your dad very passionate about things? Did he always?
Yes. My dad. Oh, yes, he was. Most people that saw my dad said, "Oh my God, your dad is the most soft-spoken, gentle person," which he was.
Most people.
But
I hear that.
Mess with his wife or his children.
Or anything he loves and cares about.
And he turned into an animal. We would literally have to hold him down. Daddy, you got to, okay.
But that's what made you feel safe too. That's part of the safety. Because if you only saw a humble man every single time and you never saw his zeal to protect you, you would really have to come to the conclusion that he may be weak. But because you see this, and because you see this organic reaction of protection, he's far from, I see it in behind closed doors, and he's far from weak You see?
Yes.
You see, and that's that's what's called humble, because
Yes.
you can't be humble and weak at the same time. How do you humble weakness? You can't humble weakness. You're already weak.
Exactly.
But if you're strong and you humble that,
Yes.
you see, and it turns into meekness. And this is what you're saying.
Yes.
Behind closed doors,
Oh.
you've seen the lion,
Yes.
but everyone knows him as a lamb.
Exactly. But my dad knew when to show it. And there was a young man that came into my parents' house one day. He was actually my youngest sister's boyfriend. And he had her so bullied that she was afraid to even come over to be with my parents. So my father was having a very mild conversation with him. Young man, you have to understand, this is my daughter, and she seems to be afraid of you. And can you explain to me what it is about you that has her with this fear? And so,
did that happen? That happened?
Yes, this actually happened.
What a great approach.
So what happened to this young man? He started saying, because she knows that I'll do this to her. And my father is standing back. This guy has a black belt in karate. And my mother used to tell the story. She said, my dad's hair would stand up on the top of his head when he was put up. His hair would literally stand on its end. When that hair jumps up, you better watch out. So my mother said, young man, I think you better go. And so he then turned to my mother and said, and I'm not talking to you, B.
And he hit her?
He just said that to my mother.
I heard your hand clap. I said,
my dad jumped on this guy, and all he could say, Mr. Ware, please don't kill me. He begged for his life in that hallway in my parents' house.
I would have choked him. I could see myself choking him. Oh my God.
I had seen my dad hit a man one other time in my life. He was outside.
A man. See, your dad. You've seen your dad get aggressive with men before.
Yes. Oh, my dad would never.
Of course not.
I never even heard my dad raise his voice to my
No.
mother.
Was your dad? And then I'm just curious, as far as at your house, how was your mom? Did your mom trigger? Did your mom push the envelope, or was your mom very behind him all the time, always in her place?
Yes, my mother would never disrespect my father. It was what even though if you looked at it from the surface, you would think this woman is a very powerful woman in this force in this house. But anyone that saw my dad and my mom interact with one another, they knew my dad controlled the house. He controlled everything.
Was your mom happy?
Oh, my mother just felt. My parents used to sing love songs to each other. They were the happiest, sweetest couple you have ever seen. That's what I thought life was all about. It
is. You didn't think wrong. You thought right. You thought absolutely right. And you've accomplished everything in your life, and you still got more to accomplish. But there's still more to learn. We're in character development. No worries. It's on the way. The best is yet to come. You already know it.
Believe that.
Praise God. Trevor, you have been, I am completely blown away by Trevor today. I thought this was going to be the Gagi show for a moment. Trevor has gem after gem after gem of perspective. He really puts things in a way where you know that he has thought about it, that he has reasoned with himself, that he has researched things, that he is that he is being conscious and intentional even in his thought process. I love it, and I can't wait to have you guys consistently here in some way. I mean, let's turn the house out.
Do you know what Terry's father calls Trevor? He tells Trevor, at least he told Trevor at some point in time, that Trevor has the pot liquor of me. You know what pot liquor is?
I know some pot liquor.
You know what pot
That's
liquor is?
That's the strongest part of that. That's the spiritual. We got the spiritual pot liquor. You know? Exactly. Yeah. But you can tell. He's you can tell that's been passed down to generation. You understand what I'm saying? He's not out here winging it. He's out here perfecting a good base already, a good base of information, a good base of teaching, a good base of education. So whoever put things in his head originally did a pretty good job there. And he can differentiate things, and he can really improve on himself. I mean, I'm telling you, I really was blown away. I said, wow, that was pretty impactful. Like, that was a pretty good point right there.
And you know what's really weird is that people, they can't understand how Trevor and I can live together. I'm his grandmother.
I could. Let me tell you, but I do have a question. Based on your experience with your dad, I know Trevor has all the potential in the world, but a lot of that disciplinary, a lot of that really comes from struggle in life. That really comes from having myself, I was gone in my childhood for quite a bit of time away from all of my family, night after night after night after night, in very stressful situations. And it developed me in such a way. Trevor, I want to hear from you and her on it. That take charge, that definite, that no, you stay in your place right now. That's needed.
Yes.
In a relationship, that's needed. I know it is. Trevor, do you have that? What does that look like? When should it come out? Do you think about it?
I think that I do have it. I think for me, the biggest thing that I'm working on is just discipline in terms of attaining the goals that I have for myself and where I want to be in my life, spiritually, financially, all those various type of things. But I definitely see myself being able to take charge in the right moments. But I'm not somebody that sees that role as something that is based off of ego. So I don't jump into the front of the line just to say, all right, let's do that. Let's say in the situation today, you were having trouble with the audio. So it's like, all right, let's jump in. Let's help you out and do
Waiting
that.
for an opportunity.
So that's how I view it, because the thing is that sometimes as a man, how you can jump into toxic masculinity is trying to take the lead for the sake of, I'm a man, I have to take the lead. Me, I know things that I'm good at. I know things that I'm bad at. So I'll take the lead when I need to take the lead. I hope to find a partner that knows that at some points, hey, you can say, hey, Trevor, let's do X, Y, and Z, things like that. And as long as you're not trying to emasculate me, you're not trying to patronize my end of the day, what my leadership is, that's great. So that's how I view it, because at the end of the day, we are male or female. The hormones and things like that dictate all those things at the end of the day. But at the end of the day, we are spirit. So when we go through this and we're filtered through this, so I'm here right now as a 27-year-old male, so I'm going to process things a little bit different. I'm going to come to these different conclusions. My role is as a leader, and I will take that at times needed. But I'm not going to just say that just because that I'm here right now as a 27-year-old male that I need to be an aggressor in every single situation, try to overtalk my partner, or try to be in a pissing contest with other men and things like that. My biggest competition is myself, and every day I want to look in the mirror and say, I'm doing better. I know that I can heal my traumas and and have my children where they're not hearing stories of the traumas and things like that, or the regrets, and they're having that burden. That's to me is really what taking charge is recognizing who you are as a person, and then being able to improve upon yourself, because at the end of the day, if you want to have kids, that's gonna make a difference.
That is gonna make a difference. Praise God. You're a great guy. I appreciate you.
But
Glad to know
Trevor
you.
is he's always been a remarkable.
Talk
all
about
of
it. Talk
my
about it.
grandkids are great kids.
Okay.
I mean, I'm so thankful. All of my friends have kids. They talk about their kids, and all I can say is I have great kids. I have fabulous kids. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. if you don't like me bragging, don't ask me about it. Okay, that's what I would say. If you don't want to know how I am and how my kids,
Tell me about Trevor. Tell me a little bit about Trevor.
I used to be concerned about Trevor when he was 3 and 4 because he used to be much larger than his other cousins. Trevor was a big baby.
Like big and weight?
He was big. He was just, and not only was he that way, but he had this little air about him. He would just walk up on people, you know. And I used to think, oh my God, I think Trevor's going to be a bully when he grows up. He walks up to these big kids and he gets in their face. And I'm thinking, where did this come from? I know he wasn't around his father, and even his dad doesn't have that personality. But Trevor is just himself. He's just Trevor. I mean, I could keep bragging about Trevor all. Who wants to put up with their grandmother? Let's be real.
A very smart man. A very smart man. A very loving man. A very caring man. An extremely strong man.
Yes.
A man that I don't even know how to describe it. It really takes a lot. It really takes, you know, and I'm not saying that you're difficult. Well,
I'm a little bit difficult.
I can understand that because we're light bearers, right? So when you have that light, that's hard to contain. And it's very often misinterpreted. Very often.
Yes.
Especially with people who don't have that light. And even other people who have that light, you know, it's sometimes it conflicts. You know, because they have their light and you have your light, and it may not be the exact type of same light. And you may want to shine light, and they want to shine light at a certain moment, and they may not be the same. So, but you know, in that respect, but I can see that. I can see how I mean, not just strong though, because you have such an exuberant spirit. You know, that I can see how he has to fall back a lot of times. And so let me ask you then, just thinking about that, when it comes to Gagi, when do you feel you have to step up? Or do you ever have to? Does she know her role to that extent? He's like, you know what? She's always pretty much, she catches it on her own. I just give her time. Or do you say, hey, Gagi, you know, we do got to talk about it.
Oh, no. That's the thing with me is that I'm soft-spoken. But the thing is, if you get to know me, I'm kind of I can kind of be a hard driver in certain type of things. I'm in certain ways very stubborn. And so the thing is that I'm not gonna be the person to browbeat you about it. I'll be the person, I'll explain it to you. And if we ever have a back and forth about it, yes, we'll go back and forth about it. But you know, Gagi's just very exuberant in how she expresses herself. But you know, with me, how I end up expressing myself and things like that, you know, so say for instance this. We're trying to put Gagi on an all fruit based diet, pretty much all fruit based, 80-20 with vegetables and things like that to really get her body start to being able to cleanse herself. And so with that, I've been having to try to keep her accountable and say like, all right, Gagi, no beer. We had white sugar in the house. I had to throw away the white sugar and stuff like that. And so for me, it's like in those type of situations, it's like by me being a laid back, like kind of a laid back person, I sometimes deal with things in a kind of upfront way. I do deal with things in a gentle way where I keep people's, I don't try to hurt your feelings and things like that, but I won't come from a perspective of, oh, I can't talk about this person like that. No, I can have a conversation about anybody with anyone about anything as long as I'm coming from the right place with it. And that's what I try to do.
And some people need to know how to receive too, though.
Right.
You know,
and I will be the last person to say that I'm easy to deal with because I'm determined. I have my own ideas that go through this head of mine.
You were trained to have those ideas.
And I have to be able to, I'm going like this. Most people are going like this. And that makes it difficult for a lot of people to be around me because they want to say, shh, be quiet, old lady, sit down. But Trevor knows how to deal with me very well because even though Trevor is my grandson, he still takes the leadership position in our house because I'm not going to usurp his authority as a man. I'm just not going to do that.
How does that look like?
That's cool.
But what does that look like? Not usurping his authority as a man in your home. And I like to speak of it in these terms because this is not like male versus female. This is grandson and grandmom, and and for those who don't know, or maybe they weren't there, Trevor is the grandson, Gagi is the grandma, and Gagi is living with Trevor right now. He's not necessarily a caretaker for her, but he's definitely caring for her.
Right.
But she's very capable. Obviously, we can see that. So that's why we're speaking it in this context. Is a pretty safe way to speak about this balance between male and female in the household.
I mean, I'll give you an example. If there's ever an issue in the household that I have to speak to another man about something that he came in the house and he didn't do correctly, and I paid him for it, I'm not going to take that upon myself to do that. I know Trevor's going to deal with him in an intelligent way, and I want that man to know this is the man who is my cover.
Good you make that
understand
thing.
what I'm
So do you make that a habit that when you're dealing with men and you're in a relationship, or when you were a child dealing with men, you would refer to the man of your life?
Yes.
Is that something normal?
That's something that has always been taught in my family.
And it worked well. Your mom
Yes.
did it too.
Yes,
She was
absolutely.
happy.
Yes,
I
my
just-
mother was extremely happy.
And I just wanted, because again, that's a lost art.
Yes.
That's not something, these days, and I say to respect the women who are in situations where they don't have a choice.
Yes.
But when you're in a situation where you have a choice, even if you've been trained a certain way, when you enter into that situation, when you enter into a cooperation with a man, especially, most men want to lead in that way. It's like, I should be the filter. And I say, check this out real quick. Satan deceived Eve. Why didn't he go directly to Adam?
Because he knew that Eve was the most vulnerable. He knew that
He knew Eve. Because Adam would have probably said what?
he was
No.
get away
He
from
probably
me with
get
that.
away from me.
And
Right.
But here's the second part of it, is that he also knew that the order in which that it was going to go was going to be perfect, because a man's weakness, ideally,
It's a woman.
is a woman.
Period.
So
100%. A man, if he's not focused on his purpose, it's probably because he's focused on a woman. That's 100% of the time. A single man that's not focused on a woman is so progressive. They progress so quickly.
Yes.
They can make up 10 years in 6 months. Literally, when you have focus. But that is how, and I made that to make a point. That's how we're wired, right? So like Satan knew if he would have went to Adam, he would have got shut down.
Exactly.
Adam would not have because Adam was protecting everyone in the situation and was not going to think about his self-benefit. Satan would have probably tried to convince Adam of his own benefit. Hey, well, if you do this, and Adam's going to say, it's not about my benefit.
Exactly.
I got people I'm responsible for.
Exactly.
But on the other end with Eve, because obviously, Adam was the man of the situation, and she was, I'm not going to say being taken care of, but a weaker vessel in the situation. I think she looked into her self-interest a bit more and said, so when Satan said, hey, man, you're going to be like God, you're going to know everything. She's like, well, I'm going to know everything. I'm going to get to know everything. Well, then I want that. Versus saying, hey, you know what? My husband and my God, like, I don't need to know everything. They got the program on lock. We don't have to work. We don't have to do this. We are eating good. We have God with us. All the benefits. Only thought about the one thing that she didn't have, and that's how she took that dirt to her husband and convinced him to eat of that tree.
And, I tend to think how I'm a typical female in many ways. That
You're not the typical female.
when I say
Stop
typical,
it right here. You're
I like
not the
pretty
typical
things.
female.
I like things a certain way. I'm very feminine in
Yes, you're girly, huh?
I'm girly.
Yeah,
I'm
most
girly
girlies
girl.
are girly.
Yes, I'm very girly. And I mean, that's because I think most women would have looked at that beautiful fruit. Oh my gosh, look at this. I haven't seen this before. You say I get it. And because we are emotional creatures.
Impulsive, very impulsive.
That's the way we are.
Yeah, you got the emotion hits and you guys are ready to act.
We're
Like
ready.
you're ready to respond to the emotion with action. And that's good when you're trained to have ideas. You see,
Yes.
that's good when you're trained to come to formulate positive emotion. That's
Yes.
great,
Yes.
but not when you're dealing with negative emotion.
Exactly.
That's the last time, that's the worst time you ever want to be impulsive, when you're in a negative situation, unless you're in a dangerous situation. Then you have to do what you have to do.
That's
So, but there is a differentiation
There's
there.
there's a huge difference. And, I love to watch Trevor grow. I love to see him developing into a man. And, because this was my little bitty man, Trevor was, he was a muscular kid. He was built like his father. And I don't know.
He's still gonna
what
grow
happened.
into it. You got a thin frame right now, but you're gonna get it back.
I'm relatively skinny. My dad's like 6'2", 6'3".
I don't like the word skinny. I don't like the word skinny. You're thin. You're thin because you're healthy, though.
He doesn't. That's right. Trevor knows we don't have a lot of fat people in our family.
Mhm.
We have mostly lean people.
Yeah, because you guys probably practice some type of health for the most part. Try to
Absolutely.
eat as much as and that's just what happens when you're less inflamed. You're just and it's not because a lot of people there's a thing going on. Hey, don't body shame, don't this shame, don't that shame. Listen, health is health, and if you're not healthy, you're unhealthy. And if you're unhealthy, if someone loves you, they should bring it to your attention that you're a bit unhealthy. And if you have nothing to do with somebody, okay, you can ignore that. But if you care about them, if you know them, you care about them, there's nothing wrong with telling someone, hey, that can lead to high blood pressure. I have a grocery store. It's a health food store. There's a reason why I do this and I'm glad that people are not related to me when they come in there, because I don't spare their feelings. And they're so much more appreciative when I don't spare their feelings. When hey, what do I need to do, chef? And I say, you need to stop eating starch immediately. Oh my God! But I can. What do you mean? What am I going to eat? What do you mean? There's whole grains. You can eat whole grains instead of starch grains. Well, but it tastes. Don't worry about the taste. Exactly. But, and at the end of that, I don't care. Do you want to get healthy or not?
Yeah.
We were preached this all of our life. I can probably, if I sat down and thought about it, I could tell you every hamburger from any fast food place I've ever eaten. Why? Because my parents told us from the very beginning, stay away from that fast food stuff.
But the thing is with that is that when we're trying to do this diet, Gagi is having a hard time because our diet, the American diet, has so many pitfalls in it.
Yeah, it does.
Because if it's not the meat, if it's not the starch, it's the sugar. And the sugar's been such a big thing.
I'm sure I'm realizing recently, since I started this whole process, I'm clearly addicted to sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly.
I know it.
I'm really addicted to sugar. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I can tell because if I don't get something to eat within a 24-hour period, I'm looking.
Mm-hmm. Then you can get more irritable and things
I get irritable.
Yeah. What if I told you I don't remember the last time I ate right now? Probably been a couple of days.
Really?
Do you not see what I've been drinking? I hydrate myself on mostly fruit water all day. For the most part, I probably eat a solid meal now at the stage, maybe one every 2 days. I start my morning with coconut water. I go into regular water after that. I like to continue to flush. So, because when the body is resting at night and it's laying in a horizontal position where it's not having to deal with gravity, it's its most detoxifying state. The cells can clean the most amount because they're not dealing with the blood flow, a fast heartbeat, functionality. If you're eating during the day, there's oxygen going there. If you're working, there's oxygen going up here. If you're working with your hands, the hands need oxygen. So the body is spreading out all of its resources throughout the body, but when it's resting, it's still the body can really focus on reparation and recovery. And in the morning, that's why we're ready to pee and we're ready to poop and get things out of our system because it's ready to detoxify itself, get everything in there out, and have a new day. I never eat breakfast ever. I've did studies with myself for over a year of when I would eat in the morning, how I would function, when I would get tired, when I would start slowing down, and when I don't eat in the morning. And when I don't eat in the morning, there is no slowdown. Do you hear me now? There is no slowdown. but I am hydrated. We are frugivores by nature and herbivores when we need to be. According to the Bible, we're frugivores because in Genesis he made fruits and fruit tree with the seed inside of it, and he made herb with the seed inside of it, and he says, "For this shall be for meat for you." So this is what you're supposed to eat, and our genetic makeup, our biological structure, it feeds off of liquid. That's why there's a cell wall around our digestive system to protect any fiber from getting through into the bloodstream, because it doesn't allow for fiber in the bloodstream. So that's how you know that we don't survive off meat. We don't survive off of fiber. We survive off the liquid that the fiber provides. So if you're eating bread, that's going to suck liquid out of your system. It's not, so you're going to die sooner. Just put it blank, because that's gluten, that's leaven, that's this and that, and that's going to cause inflammation. It's going to cause dehydration. That's not going to allow for the cells to have oxygen, et cetera, et cetera. But if you're eating something that has water all day long and it fruits, vegetables, and greens, then you are consistently feeding the body. That's you feed the body with water. That's how the body eats. You see, but we have shifted in our diet throughout the centuries and whatnot, and it's understandable. We're beautifully made. There's a right way to do wrong things. We just need to learn, if you want to consume meat, how to do it, and how often you should avoid it. Though, for the most part, we always want to avoid it completely. Meat is very, very, very acidic, but so is gluten, and so is starch, and so is dairy, and so is processed sugar, the shiny kind, especially because these things calcify. These things go into a warm body, and they start changing their molecular structure, because the body inside is 99 degree internally. So we have to think about these things as far as diet is concerned. And I'm very conscious of these things. I'm very protective of the people around me because of it, especially knowing better. And I lost my point a little bit.
No. I need every bit of this.
Yeah, but we need to do that. Oh yeah, because of the sugar addiction. So, but I think you need to apply everything here, though. Why are you avoiding applying all your discernment here? Because you know when to run. You've already explained it. You know when to have initiative. You know when to put. You said no. I have something that he's going to want 100%. And then next thing you know, you open up a whole business for safety, etc. So why, it's a matter of shifting, applying all of that, and say, you know what? Great. Another challenge.
Yes.
Let's get it done. I can do it.
You know what? Yesterday was the very first day I said to myself these words. Jen, what's the matter with you? Have you ever tried to do anything that you couldn't do? Why don't you think like that? The same thing, that approach that you use to anything, any challenge that you decide to do, it may have never been done before, but you tell yourself, I can do this. That's what I have to start. Because we play mind games with ourselves all the time.
I do it on purpose.
Yeah, I do too. And because I was telling myself, whenever this wrist starts hurting, I'm sewing it up. I'm sewing it up. I'm mending it.
And when you know what you're doing when you do that, from a biochemistry perspective, you are communicating with your neurological system, and you are telling them how to react to the pain. You are literally telling them what to do. Same way outside of our body, we can determine anything. If I spoke to Trevor and say, hey, Trevor, can you grab me that right there? My voice can get that phone in my hand in 1 second. I just need to know how to use my voice properly, where to direct my voice, what tone of voice. You see, if I say, give me that phone right now, that the phone may not come to me. You see what I'm saying? But say, hey, Trevor, can you please hand me that phone? With my voice alone, I brought that phone to me. You see? And I can do that inside of me too. It's just, there's actually 1.5 trillion cells in there waiting for me to give them direction, waiting for me to give them instruction, waiting for me to feed them, waiting for me to guide them. And that's, it's a full-time job worrying about this. So that's the same way. I tell myself, when things happen to me, I tell myself all the time, hey, we're not going to think about that. We're not dealing with that. Put that to the side and let's keep it moving. Period. I don't know who's listening in here, but get to work, because we're not stopping for that. And all the time ends up happening.
So true.
Our willpower, my willpower will push us
Yes.
through a lot of times. My refusal to quit and to give up is the reason 90% of the things I've accomplished in my life has come to fruition. Because 95 of them have come with challenges and tribulation. It's my refusal to bow down and give up when the first level of difficulty hits, or the second, or the third. You got to come better than that.
Yes.
You got to come better than that.
I know.
You know,
I know
praise
exactly
God.
what you're saying. And you know, people have always said to me, I was extremely stubborn. I don't think being stubborn is necessarily not a virtue.
No, I like stubbornness.
I like
in the right place.
Exactly.
The right time.
Stubbornness in the right place has probably been the thing that has enabled me to live over insurmountable odds. You know, I should have been dead a long time ago. I only weighed 3 pounds in 1944 when I was born. And at that time, they were telling my grandmother, push this little one to the side. She's not going to make it. My grandmother was an herbalist. And she said, God spoke to her and said, you give this baby this. And she made a sugar titty and put it in my jaw. And so she looked and she said, no,
A sugar titty? What's a sugar titty?
A sugar titty is herbs, various herbs that causes rapid growth in babies. My grandmother was a midwife. And I don't know what those herbs were, but she said she did that.
I could find some.
And
I'm pretty sure I know a few of them.
I'm sure that's.
How do I put them in a sugar titty?
You put it in gauze.
In gauze.
You take it and you wrap. She said she wrapped it up in gauze.
And then put the gauze in the mouth?
And put the
in the baby?
And the baby's constantly sucking on it.
Oh.
And you know, you don't let it go.
The herb. So you went from 3 pounds.
I went to 3 pounds to 6 pounds. And she said it was such a short period of time that she couldn't tell Jean and I apart. My sister weighed 6 pounds.
You know, if you tried to go to the doctor and tell them that today, they would let your baby die.
Oh, they would.
No, they would say, no, we don't know. That's unproven. That's unnatural. They would act like that's unnatural. Yeah. And they would do it medically their own way, even at the risk of losing your child.
They were going to give me a C-section for Terry, my son Terry. And my grandmother said, no, just give me 10 minutes and I'll be there. And when she got to the hospital, she straddled me in the bed and she brought a big jar of some type of cream. I don't know what it was. And she started massaging my stomach. She
started pushing, redirecting. I get it.
And the baby flipped. Flipped. And because my grandmother said, oh, no, she will not have a C-section. So when the doctor came in, he said, this doesn't make any sense. And so my grandmother said, oh, yes, it does make any sense. And he said, well, tell me what you did. She says, no, if I told you, you wouldn't believe me anyway. She said, doctor, I probably have delivered 10 times more babies than what you've delivered in your life.
Because she was a midwife. She knew exactly what. Oh, my God. That's so
many things in the medical industry that are so against nature. You talk about the C-section. Oh, a baby is supposed to go through a woman's birth canal because it's supposed to get all the blood, all the mucus, all that various type of stuff, and that's the start of their immune system.
It's supposed to fight to get through that birth canal.
Absolutely, that's the whole point. It builds the baby's immune system.
And the baby that my grandmother said, a baby that did not go through the birth canal, it lacks something psychological.
Yeah, I can understand that.
She used to really believe that.
I can understand that. Yeah, I agree with all. Anything unnatural is going to lack or organic essence.
And it's going to be something spiritual missing too, because
that's the organic part.
You're like entering into the matrix.
Well, nature is God. Listen, nature is God. Literally, when you turn to food, natural food, you turning to the food that God created that man has not interfered with. Nature is God. When you turn and you're dealing with stressful moments and you take a walk on the beach and watch the sunset, you are turning to God's beauty in His design. Absolutely. And the waves splashing and the moon shining and the stars out or the cloud or the bright sun and the blue sky. That's all God.
It is.
That's all God. And that's what we turn. So when we're dealing with natural things and where we're seeking natural things, and they say, no, you shouldn't be seeking this natural thing. They're walking you away from God's solution to our problem. And to trust their solution instead.
Exactly. Yes.
And it's my belief that really when we're talking about again with diet, being a frugivore, being a vegetarian, being a vegan is God's diet.
Yeah.
He is a God of life. He's not a God of destruction. When we read the Bible, we read about eating meat in the context of sacrifice. When we talk about, when the people want to talk about eating chickens in the Bible, talk about when they ate quail. They ate a bunch of quail.
And what happened to them?
Died.
How many of them?
Yes.
All of them.
Died.
Every single one. Every Numbers 11. Every single one. He said, as their meat, the moment they put the meat in their mouth and started chewing, it said it kindled God's wrath.
Yes.
And he killed them all right then and there.
Yes.
That's
a powerful. That is
And
such a powerful.
And he took it away. And
Yes.
then when they were murmuring, he responded. He says, why do you despise me?
Yes.
So think about this. When he took away meat from their diet, they cried about it. And Moses, to the point where Moses said, don't send me, kill me before you send me back without meat. And he said, oh, yeah? And then Moses got sarcastic. That's why God got mad too.
Yeah.
Moses got sarcastic, and he said, are these my children? Why do I got to hear their whining all day long?
Yes.
I didn't birth them. They're not mine, And God said, okay, no worries. Okay, you got it. Go get them ready. Tell them, put the shoes on. Tell them we're going to get ready. We're going to eat meat. Not for 1 day, not for 2 days, not for 10 days, not for 20 days. We're going to eat it for 30 days until it come out of your nose, until you can't even breathe anymore. And he killed every single one.
But I can recall when I was a child, we only ate meat 1 day a week.
Good balance.
I mean,
Proper balance. These days you eat it every meal.
Yeah.
Breakfast got meat on it. Lunch got meat on it. Breakfast, a chicken sandwich from croissant sandwich from this place to that place with meat and bread and cheese. And then lunch, a salad. Okay, salad with croutons and meats and cheese.
Yes.
And the same thing, except the bread is on a crouton now and not just on the flatbread. And then dinner time, that's when you're really going to do it. You're going to put the grains, the cheese, the meats, and everything together. And that's why we're dying. That's why our community is suffering how it is.
But what's crazy too is that it's not really happening in our community, but in the white community right now, there is becoming a really popular carnivore diet. And so it's like the opposite almost of the diet that we're talking about here, is that where people are almost eating entirely meat and they might eat fruits here and there. But the thing is that I was watching a video the other day about is that it actually might come down to some of our biology might be different. Us as melanated people, we are not meant to eat those meats. Our body is not designed for it. Our stomach acids are not designed for it. Our teeth are not designed for it. If you look at the Caucasian man and woman, they're more designed for it, so it works for them. Mm-hmm. But if we talk about people that if we really understand how we're coming from the original man and the original woman, we got to go back to the original diet. We have to be eating fruits and vegetables. My belief is that eating thou shalt not kill.
Mm-hmm.
Show me in the Bible with the dietary laws that you can eat an animal past 3 days, and that eating animals was not a sacrifice.
I agree. There's a community of people who disagree. They separate the sacrificial law from the dietary law. But I think the dietary law is part of the sacrificial law. The reason is because Genesis, there was no meat on the table. Right. Meat is a byproduct of sin. Yes. There would be no death if there wasn't sin. Yes. So anything that's a byproduct of sin is unnatural to God. He never wanted it from the beginning. That's one. Two, after the fall of Noah, after the flood of Noah, when everyone uses as an example, I think it's Genesis 8, 9, and 10, somewhere around there, when the animals are going on the boat or whatnot. But he tells them, he says, okay, now the dread of you is going to be in the animal, right? Because so they're going to be afraid of you now. And if you do eat them, the blood is on your hands. Yes. I'm going to require your blood too. They're going to be open season on you too. Just remember, there's a consequence to you doing it. He didn't say, yeah, go ahead.
And Solomon, wait, Noah on that ark, how long was he on that ark?
40 days.
Do you think that he was eating all those animals? Did he have like
none.
Did he have like a freezer full of chicken?
Yeah, I didn't see him eat none. I didn't read him eat any of them. All I read was when he came off the ark, the first thing he did was not eat some chicken. He built an altar and made a sacrifice. And guess what? The Bible says that when he put the animals on the ark, the unclean animals came in 2 by 2, and the clean animals came in 7 by 7. People don't differentiate that, and it's a very important reason, because if the clean animals came in 2 by 2, then that first sacrifice would have killed an entire species of animal. But God already knew that.
Yeah.
That's why he said, no. The unclean animals 7 by 2 by 2, because we're not going to kill that or sacrifice that or eat that.
Yeah.
That's going to keep, they're going to procreate and they're going to keep the earth clean.
Yeah.
But we're going to get the clean animals 7 by 7, because the first thing you're going to do is sacrifice. That's going to be one out the game. And then you're and your family probably going to eat.
Yes.
And we still need more of those. God was smart. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So, but at the end, he did give us a warning. And then he also said your lifespan is going to go from 120 to 70. And remember what I told you about the 70.
Yes.
He capped it, and it said if it's more than 70, it might get to 80, but it's going to be full of stress and drama.
Yes.
You know that. So no, we don't contemplate these things. The fact that he took the children of Israel out of Egypt, took away all their fake gods, all their fake everything, all the food they were eating there, and he says, okay, I'm gonna give you manna from the sky, coriander seed, a whole grain, by the way, a whole grain.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, coriander seed. That's what manna was.
Okay.
Coriander. That's what the Bible says.
Okay.
Specifically, coriander seed, which is an alkaline seed. I can understand why it's a natural seed. It's an alkaline seed. pH level 7.40 and above. That means it can cause no sickness in your body.
Huh.
Coriander is only a healing component.
Okay.
It doesn't cause any type of acidity in your system. You see? And then whole grains stay whole throughout the entire digestive process. They clean they clean out the intestines. I'm not a big fan of a lot of grains all the time. You know, again, more fruits, more vegetables than anything. But there is a time to eat grains. It should be later on towards the day. Should be only a few times a week to make sure you're keeping the intestines clean. If you are eating bad too, that'll help clean. But if you're eating mostly fruits and vegetables and things you're supposed to, you don't really need to clean the intestines too much. You don't need to put grains in the system, especially if you're hydrating yourself. And I'm excited to do this with you guys. I don't know how we want to get it done, but if we can start with 3 days,
Yes.
get you what you guys need. It's really, you're going to be surprised. You're going to be extremely surprised, because you're going to be surprised how easy you do it.
Well, I'll tell
It's
you,
just a monster in your head only.
yeah, that's all that it is.
Uh-huh.
And I there are times when I throw these own pity parties for myself. Well, I don't do this, I don't do that, I don't do the other. So what if and Trevor knows that I'm not a drinker, but every once in a while, I like a cold beer. I just like a cold beer. And I thought I would never even and I like Heineken, so it's a good tasting beer. But Trevor acts as if it's the end of the world because I have a beer.
No beer.
Yeah, beer's not good for you.
Beer's not good
What
for
about
you.
wine?
In moderation.
Yeah, of course.
In moderation, probably a few times a week, most. Clean wine, vegan wine, comes from grapes. But because it's wine, there's fermentation already, so it's sweet. And when you consume it, there's more fermentation.
Yeah.
So it gives you that buzz. That buzz is what you call intoxication. That buzz is another form of sugar for you.
But
That's the problem with
I
it.
don't drink enough to get intoxicated.
That's good. Then why do you drink at all?
Not because I want to get intoxicated. I like the flavor.
The thing is that I'm realizing more and more is like our gut is a second brain, and we're almost looking for some of those chemical reactions. We're almost looking for that acidic thing in our body.
We do.
That's the whole thing.
And Trevor, it just sometimes when I just want a beer, it's because I want to kick back, look at the basketball game, drink me a beer.
But it's yeast. That's the problem.
It's just it has nothing to do with me just loving the flavor.
And this
of
has
it.
nothing to do with us. This has everything to do with us caring on you and caring for you. That's all it is. We don't want to see nothing go inside of your body that is going to make you feel good, but end up have bad negative results to you.
Yes.
I would rather sacrifice how good you feel about it knowing that actually when you don't do it, it's like going to the gym, right?
Mhm.
In the beginning, it's a challenge to get to the gym, right?
Yes.
And then, but because the gym is difficult, it's difficult, right? But when you finally get to the gym and you talk yourself into going to the gym and you talk yourself doing the process, when you finish with the gym, you feel so much better that you actually went to the gym.
Yes.
So even when you're speaking of something that you enjoy, if it has self-destructive components to it, that'll exist. Because you do think about it like, oh, I know I shouldn't drink the beer, but I like the beer. And it's not a sin. It's not, yeah, of course it's not. It's not a sin. It's not anything characteristical to you. It doesn't say that you're bad at anything, but it does point to a self-destructive behavior that you're justifying with something that you enjoy. And it hurts us. Essentially, that beer is going to hurt what your overall goal is for your health.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I actually am getting better since I've become a vegetarian.
I'm not judging either, by the way. I'm not pushing any pressure on you. I'm just
I know what you're
explaining to
saying.
you the perspective and the detail behind the way I view those things and the because it's, let's see, a steady stream. So let's say right now you may be dealing with some gut issue and then your immune system is not where it needs to be. There is a level of inflammation going on because you've been addicted to sugar for so long and you're learning how to clean the system right now. Let's say 2 beers a week only, just 2 little beers a week while you're watching. How many weeks in a year?
52.
Times 2 then? 52 times 2 is what?
100.
So out of 365 days, how many days did she drink a beer?
Is it, wait,
100 and what if she's drinking 2 times a week?
yeah.
No, that's not days then. That's weeks. So out of 52 weeks.
365
So
Yeah.
she would have 100 beers.
Yes, but on top of that though, out of 300 something days, you're having 100 beers. That's 1/3 of your time frame. You're consuming something that's bad for you. When you really put it into a bigger perspective,
that's
true. So now looking at it annually, you have given your body yeast twice a week for the entire year. That has to have some greater negative effects than the short term that short one is okay, but if that short one becomes twice a week and then every day or every week for the rest of the year, then there's not a short anything.
And that's the funny thing about life is that much of what comes in this life that is positive comes at much longer time period, longer waiting period and gestation period than anything negative that can happen in this life.
Yeah,
so
look at that.
That's the thing is that we want something nice and sweet. We got to work for it and wait for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
but again, that's just a motivational speech. That's what I call that a mental arsenal. So we're giving you tools to use when you're faced with yourself and the decision that you're making for you to try to say, okay, usually my go-to would be, it's only this, it's only one time, I don't do it much, but that should be the last stop. You should go through the entire process first and say, you know what, I know that's bad for me. And this is why it's bad for me. And and then talk yourself out of the decision, because at the end, it's not that we want to take your joy of a beer away. It's that we don't want you to have to deal with the consequences of that consistent habit.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I say to Trevor all the time, I need to know what is there in this that makes it detrimental to my health.
It's the
yeast.
Yeah,
It's the yeast.
The fermentation.
Yeah, the fermentation of the yeast, exactly what it is. So, yeast infections. So yeast is unprocessable in the small intestine. So yeast can't get through the small intestine, so to speak. The yeast is also gluten. Anything that's glutinous, a leavening agent. So it's a binder. Yeast is a binder. Now, with that said, consistent yeast every day is going to cause your reproductive system to get compromised with acidity, with inflammation, because with yeast not being processable in the small intestine, that liquid starts calcifying, starts getting hard, and it starts getting gooey, and starts getting that beer, it starts getting sticky because it's sucking oxygen out of the blood because it needs to input the sugar, and that sugar needs to go somewhere. And that obviously space is oxygen. So if the sugar is in the blood, that means oxygen is out of the blood, and that causes stickiness. It causes coagulation in the blood. It causes inflammation. Now that stickiness floats around in our system in different ways at the cellular level. It floats around. That's why if that stickiness settles on your wrist, you got arthritis. That's what ultimately. So that stickiness, because it doesn't process through the small intestine, it starts leaking into that digestive tract, floating into it starts leaking into the fallopian tubes, leaking into the ovaries, compromising the uterus in general. And that's why when the uterus is compromised, it starts leaking out into the urinary tract to let a woman know, hey, we're inflamed. So that comes in the form of yeast infection, UTI, cysts, fibroids, endometriosis, and these other discharge issues that 80% of the women in our community suffer with. By the way, 80% of our women suffer with some type of vaginal discharge issue dealt with that's the derivative from her diet.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
We were just watching that video the other day. Solomon, you know about Yaki Hickman or Yaki Awakening?
Yeah, I watch him sometimes.
Yeah, so we were just watching a video on him the other day. He was just talking about this exactly. Is that how part of the reason why our women get the BV bacteria, vaginosis, and all the things that you just listed is because how dense our microbiome is. And so we're eating all these various things, and our bodies are doing the job of trying to eat all that stuff, but it's making that bacteria grow and grow and grow, and it causes those type of reactions. But then we go to a doctor and we get antibiotics, and we're putting a Band-Aid on the issue rather than solving the issue.
Absolutely. Every single time. And those antibiotics cause different issues depending if they got binders in them. That's another thing. Yeah, I understand there may have been a pure intent at one point with their medicine, but the way they capsulize it, the way they put those tablets together, the process that they use, and the chemicals that they use to try to bind those chemicals together to give to us, causing a whole entirely different issue.
Exactly.
You know what? I just thought about it. I wonder what if that those capsules I take that gabapentin, they could be causing a lot of my troubles, because that's 9 of those capsules at 3 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon, and 3 in the evening.
What capsules?
Do we have
It's
any
called
way?
gabapentin. It's gabapentin.
Are they tablets or capsules?
It's capsules.
So can you open them?
Yeah.
They're probably gelatin capsules, by the way.
Yeah, they probably are.
Yeah, and that consistent flow 3 times a day of that type of
9
glycerin.
of those
Yeah.
a day. It's three times.
Yeah.
a
Oh
day.
no. I would open those up and take those with water if you're gonna take them at all.
Okay.
Yeah, I would not take those capsules if I didn't know for a fact that they were like plant-based glycerin only.
I doubt that.
Yeah, I doubt it too. It's probably
Because
full of
the
soy
medical
and gelatin.
industry doesn't
Yeah,
care about
pork and
that.
gelatin, basically.
Yeah.
Pork and soy is what they use to do those capsules for the most part. Pork and soy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, my goal is to get off all of the medication that I take. And even though, believe it or not, Trevor, when I mentioned this to my doctor, you know what he says to me? James, you're not on a lot of medication. A lot of people your age takes a lot more medication than what you
Which
take.
is crazy.
It's crazy.
I have a friend of mine, he had 20-something medications. He's in the 70s also, higher 70s. He's on 0 today. After 2.5 years, he's on 0, and he got off all the medications within 6 months. He just hasn't had a need to get back on it. And whenever he had done something a little bit silly or didn't know what he did wrong to frustrate his numbers, he would call me. I would explain to him, "Oh, okay, what did you eat exactly? Each meal, what was the ingredients? This is it." I said, "Yeah, that might have caused it." And he said, "Okay, I'm not going to eat with that." And then they called me back, say, "Yeah, I haven't eaten with that. No problem with the same dish." I said, "Exactly. You have to be careful with that." Like one of his things was ionized salt. He could not stop. He always kept cooking with ionized salt. You cannot have ionized salt. That's a synthetic iodine. We cannot have fake iodine. It throws off our thyroid, throws off our blood pressure, throws off our adrenals, throws off our glands. It throws off our lymphatics. It really jacks up our system when you have that unnatural iodine consistently coming into our system in all of our food. Restaurant food, they use ionized salt. Our body needs real iodine, not ionized salt. And sea salt doesn't carry iodine. So sea salt is an alternative that doesn't throw off your thyroid. Sea salt is an alternative that doesn't throw off to your blood pressure because it doesn't contain actual iodine. But plants that do are like kelp, like dulce, like bladderwrack, different substances and minerals that do have a natural amount of iodine, but not ionized salt, you see. So that's one of the things he said, every time I have it, my blood pressure, stop eating that, and he said, I've never had a blood pressure issue after that.
But yeah, I heard a doctor years ago say that iodine, I remember when there was no iodine in the salt, by the way. And our parents used to say, make sure you get salt with the iodine in it because that's what they were selling.
Yeah, no, you don't want salt with the iodine in it because it's not real iodine. You do want salt with iodine if they want salt at all, and that's in the form of a algae or a different type of plant. But salt, ionized salt, is different than salt that has a natural iodine concentration or property, or like again kelp or dulce. These are plants that are salty by nature that you can get them powdered, but the iodine itself comes from the plant, not from the salt aspect of it. That sea salt doesn't need the plant to become sea salt. You see what I'm saying? That's why the sea salt doesn't carry iodine to that extent. It's not rooted. Sea salt is not rooted anywhere. It's just in the water. It's something that formulates in the water. But the actual plants, the bladderwrack that grows up on the shoreline, the kelp, the dulce, these are plant properties that contain the mineral iodine, because iodine is a mineral itself, so it has to have a structure to bind to. You see what I'm saying? That's why it's not carried in the salt itself. So when they ionize the salt, they add a bunch of fake type of salt. So it's like, and it's not even, they don't mix it with sea salt. They make brand new salt and ionize the salt. They put it through a process that adds an unnatural iodine concentration to it. That is why when you take it, our thyroids are jacked. That's the first thing that goes, because everything has to brush up against the thyroid before it gets into the digestive tract. So that's why our thyroids are off the wire.
I've got some growth on my thyroid right now.
Yeah. So all iodinized salt, it got to go. All iodinized salt got to go. 100%.
Himalayan sea salt. So
yes, because it doesn't have. That's pretty good. But that doesn't mean you're consuming iodine. You still need some levels of actual iodine, by the way. Sea moss is a pretty good source of iodine. It does have some iodine because the sea moss grows off the rock. The sea moss is a fiber, even though it's gel, and we break it down into more gel, but it's not, it grows off the rock. It grows from the dirt. It doesn't grow in the water on its own like the sea salt. It's actually rooted somewhere in the water. So that's what makes the difference between the sea salt. I mean, the sea moss.
A good product idea would possibly be.
Hold on. Is it patented yet? Okay, we might have to talk about this on the back end, bro. Hold on. Let me messing up my Joe Mojo here. No, I'm messing with you. We get ideas, man. Go drop the gems, baby. Drop the gems.
Like what you're saying is do the pink salt, sea salt, and maybe put some kelp in there. Put some.
Sound like a plan. Let's get it. Let's get an iodine salt together. Praise God.
Real iodine salt.
You taught him how to do that, Gagi?
Well, it's got in my brain. And that's a great thing. I've always been the type of person that has been inventive. So that's in your DNA, Trevor.
I think so.
Absolutely.
So nonetheless, I'm just sharing my screen here with everybody here. But nonetheless, it's been a pleasure to have you here, Gagi. I really anticipate our weekly show.
Yes, I would love
We're going to get a day together.
And
we're going to get a time together. It's going to happen naturally. Even the beginning of our conversation towards the end of our conversation, we must have a much, he was like just in the background. And now, he's a significant part of the conversation. I love the flow that we're having, the synergy that we have here. And we're going to continue to build on this. I look forward to it.
I enjoy being with Trevor.
Wonderful. So for everyone that's watching and everyone that's going to watch, I know this was a long-winded show today. And, I just appreciate everybody taking the time to stick around with us here. And we are going to get going. But I'm glad that I introduced you guys to these lightning bolts of human beings that I have here. Let me get them back on the screen here. Yeah, I'm glad that I introduced you guys to Gagi and to Trevor here. They've been just, every time I talk to them, I get something. Today today I got so much more out of Trevor today than I usually do. Usually it's me and Gagi going back and forth about it, and Trevor interjecting here and there a little bit. But Trevor really stood up today and really was a part of this conversation a different way, and I really appreciate it so much. I really love the focus that you put into that and to make sure that you're there, because it really just it makes me feel so much better. It's like, okay, this is really, I didn't expect that. So I can't wait to bring all you guys and bring you guys back until we get something. We're gonna organize this. We're gonna put it together better some way, somehow. We're gonna get my mom's cooking classes. I'm gonna bring her in, and we're gonna get your craft classes going on. We're gonna get you teaching people in some audio engineering and things like that.
Trevor is the greatest cook.
I'm all right.
It sounds like I got two of the best team members I can possibly got. Thank you, Father, for sending me.
Why do you say?
Praise God.
I was thinking the Most High for our kitchen.
Oh yes, I told you. I know we should go see it when I leave here. It's going to take me some time to wrap up,
Okay.
but maybe even before next week. Let me know.
Yes,
Come take a look at it,
yes.
because we are going to be. And I love the food that we're getting the menu together. I'm just such an inspirational moment in my life right now.
Be able to show some of Trevor and I in the kitchen together.
Okay, we're gonna make it happen. We're gonna make it happen. You have my word. We're gonna make it happen. Okay, Gagi? Like everything else that you make happen, this is your will is gonna manifest this as long as it's in the right place. Praise God.
Every time.
All right, wonderful. Again, I'm gonna go ahead and zone out here. My computer that I'm running the board is a little bit funny right here. So if you see me get up to turn it off, oh well, no worries. But it's all gonna be in order shortly. So with that, I appreciate everybody taking the time to stick with us. I see all the reactions, all the comments. We'll go through them. I'll answer whoever I have to answer, and we're going to inform you guys properly, get some good marketing material, advertise the show, send it in the emails, and next time we're going to anticipate to have a larger audience. Okay, I appreciate y'all. God bless y'all. And I look forward to having everybody here. All right, bye everybody.
Oh, that was fun.
Oh man, it's wonderful. I'm still trying to turn it off. Bear with me here, because this computer here is just it's a laptop, and I guess I hooked it up originally to the wrong Wi-Fi. I got a couple Wi-Fi signals here. So, but let me just make sure this should be going off here. It's still on, just in case I gotta turn it off from up there. All right, yeah, probably do. But we'll get it in order. No worries. This is trial and error, and such is life.